welcome back, guys. Sorry for the delay. I've had a lot of technical issues tonight. My apologies. So we are back with show number 2 for Cafe Conspiracy. Still having issues with things, so bear with me. We will get through this. Tonight, we are delving into the conspiracies. There's a few behind what's going on up in Antarctica. There's some crazy things, some crazy stories. Who knows what to believe? But we're going to break it down. We're going to discuss it. We're going to see what we come up with. And it's up to you guys, I guess you could say. Whatever you think, whatever your thoughts are. So that being said, let's kick this off and get this thing moving. Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy. Please share this out. Hit the like button. And let everybody know what we're doing tonight. See you in a few. Here we go.
Beneath motel neon glow, ice machine screaming like it's in on the show. Everybody's talking through a dead wire grin, selling little truths with the poison tucked in. Black sedans humming like a lullaby, tinted windows blink but they never cry. Files locked down in the desert heat, strange lights dancing over Groom Lake streets. Crying kites smiling while the footage shakes. One small step for one giant fake. Majestic 12 signing on a classified shelf while Antarctica freezes over secrets in the snow. Room 306 with the curtains sewn. Got 1,000 little secrets dialing my phone. You can call me dangerous, call me out my mind, but why is every leak confession buried out of sight? They're painting over evidence in red, white, and blue. If the shoe don't fit the story, why's it fitting you? Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy, where the lost connect the lines in between. Everybody laughing while the signals decay. Nothing to see here, that's what they say. From Dallas shadows to the neon sky, half the world sleeps while the questions multiply. If you never ask questions, you'll never disobey. Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy. Camera glitches on the penthouse floor, names in a black book nobody mentions anymore. An owl in the redwoods where the kings play God. Illuminati bloodlines giving you the nod. Politicians smiling with the perfect teeth while another headline disappears beneath. Punch-drunk headlines bleeding out fast. Yesterday's scandal already passed. Hard drives wipe with a velvet glove. Kiss the ring and call it tough love. Maybe I'm a problem, maybe that's the point. They'd rather call it madness than let the story split the joints. All the talking heads keep dancing like marionettes on cue. The strings become invisible when they're wrapped around you. Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy, where the truth is stripped of the cheap cliche. Everybody's scrolling while the towers sway. Just coincidence, that's what they say. So swallow every narrative, kneel and obey. If you never ask questions, you'll never break away. Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy. Area 51 been electric storms. MK Ultra in a lab grown swarm. Nobody remembers where the lie begins. Tinfoil prophets on the late night feed. Maybe the lie isn't what they told you. Maybe the lie is making you afraid to look. Redacted names in blacked out lines. Power dressed in perfect ties. History cut to fit the frame. Different decades, same old game. Who's ready, oriented? Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy, where we watch the guilty play innocent. There's smoke in the archives from Roswell dust to the CIA. Truth gets buried while the headlines play. If you never ask questions, you'll fade into the gray. Welcome to Cafe Conspiracy. Pull up a chair and decide what's real. Decide what's real for yourself. Ooh, Will you read between the lines?
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Great to see you guys tonight. Again, second show for the Cafe Conspiracy. It's great to be back with you guys doing this stuff. I appreciate you joining us, guys. Make sure to hit the like button and share it out. And please excuse any hiccups we have. I've been having technical problems throughout the day with this mess. So thank you so much for joining us and for being here, sharing it out, all that fun stuff. You are all very much appreciated. Give me 1 minute here. Come on in, grab a seat, get comfortable, grab your cup, fill it up. Let's see what we can jump into tonight. Antarctica. What is really going on up there, guys? That is what we're going to be talking about tonight. It should be. There's a lot of crazy stories that are connected with Antarctica if you haven't heard them. And yeah, there's a lot of different things going on up there from what I'm understanding and what I've been reading. And we did a show on this before. Trying to remember when it was, but it was on when I was doing Paranormal Fridays a long time back. So more other things. So of course I will drop a link for anybody that wants to discuss things with us up here. Please feel free. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, opinions, feelings on this for sure. We'll get into some other things with it as well to jump into it. And let me see. Give me 1 minute here to get this set up. Hope everything works. Who do we got? Looks like Blue-Eyed Butterflies in the house. True Crime Unleashed. In Stitches, welcome, welcome. Baby Ames, great to see ya. Moto Man's in the house, good to see you, brother. Miss Gen 7, welcome back to you. One Made Nut, Eddie's in the house tonight, great to see you, Eddie. What's up, Junior? Hildreth Investigates is in the house. Ms. Rowe, great to see ya. Miss Bianca, speaking of which. Now. Kabam. Okay. SR Bubbles, great to see ya. Blue Eye, okay, let's see. I knew there was somebody else up here. Tiki Bar, welcome back to you, Miss Tiki. Candy's in the house, Seahawks fan, great to see ya. Aquarian One, welcome to you. Miss Bianca Jane is in the house. And Pooh Bear's Honeybee, welcome to you. Good. We saw you this morning over there at Miss Kim's. Wonderful to have you here tonight. Rubik's Cube, welcome back to you. Gail 74, welcome. Moonlit Baby, great to see ya. Michelle F, welcome back to you. Of course. Moonlit Baby. Let me see. Show. Nancy Road, great to see you. Crazy Italian Lady, welcome back to you. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Tracy Sarastina, I think. Welcome. I thought. A third. Good golly, Miss Molly's in the house. There she is. Molly loves this stuff. And guys, let me see. Miss Cat K, welcome. Jessie Lynn. Moving forward, Jessie Lynn. Good to see you. Daniel Tuds, welcome to you. Miss Cat K. And since we have most of the moderation team and crew in the house, guys, please, if you will, welcome Miss Bianca Jane to the family, to the crew, to the team. If you can, please and thank ya. Welcome to you, Miss Bianca. It's been a long time coming. We love you and appreciate you very much. We're grateful to have you as part of our team and part of our family. Long time coming, so thank you, dear, and welcome. Good God, Lucy's in the house. Mr. Lucy, good to see ya. Right, all right. You are so welcome, Miss Bianca. Like I said, long time coming. It should have happened a long time ago, but there was just a lot of wild stuff going on and crazy things, and my brain was everywhere, and I was busy, and I wasn't thinking, so I didn't get it done. So my apologies. You deserved it. Long time ago. There's a Mikey, the last 24. Good to see ya. Ba, 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 ba. Let's see. Legal Swag, welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. Patricia Powell, hello and welcome. What? Jago questions. What are we asking questions for, Miss Patricia? Good evening, Poppy. Good to see you, brother. Beverly Fike, welcome to you. I think I got everybody. Big CWs. I'm good. Good to see you. How are you? Great to have you here. Miss Teresa, great to see ya. I hope your day does get better, Miss Moonlit. Miss Jen 7, as always, great to see you. Happy to have you. Yeah. Chickadee, welcome to you. Tiffany Guzman, welcome back. All right, all right, all right. Let me see here. Looks like Aquarian starting off already at our goal. Happy Sunday. I'll need to leave early tonight, but I wanted to drop in and say hello, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much, and God bless, dear. CAO Kane, welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. Sky Blue Eyes, welcome to you. So again, everybody, please welcome Miss Bianca as we do to the family. Give her a warm welcome. Make her feel at home. Let her know anything she needs, as I know we always do. Please and thank you. Third Apache, great to see you. Um, Patricia Powell, I got timed out yesterday, cussed by one of your mods, and I want to apologize to everyone. And I wasn't have it, and you. I wasn't having a good day yesterday. I think. Um, uh, who? I don't believe anybody would have cussed you out, but thank you. I appreciate that too. I don't know who would have done that. I don't know what was going on with that. Well, I will look into it and see what the deal was. Thank you for the apologies. If you were having a bad day, it's understood. We'll figure out what happened and what's going on, and I will let you know at some point. I didn't think anybody would cuss you out. We don't do that. I'll look back in the chat and see what happened. Unless it was somebody else that was in the chat that did it. It wasn't a moderator at the same time that you were timed out, maybe. But I'll go back and double check it. We always do, and they usually have screenshots to send me if somebody was timed out. They'll send me screenshots and stuff. So I'll go look at it. No big deal. Thank you for the apologies. If you're having a bad day, I'm sure it happens day to day. I have them all the time. So we'll check the screenshots and see who it was. It could have been somebody else that said something to you that maybe just you saw lined up with the moderators. So we'll make it. I'll check it because we save everything. So no worries. Yeah, we have the activity from it. We do that purposely whenever that happens to make sure we have stuff to cover that. So and we've never done that before either anyway. So like I said, we'll look into it moving forward. Um, they're probably already doing it as I speak. Luther, good to see you, dear. All right. Okay, so how many people in here have heard the stories about Antarctica and the strange, whatever you want to call it, about Antarctica? The fact that we can't just get in a plane and fly to Antarctica whenever we feel like it. You can't just book a flight there. Excuse me. I thought was always a strange situation. You can go anywhere else you want to in the United States, for the most part, but you can't just book a flight and fly to Antarctica. Not that many people would want to. The point is, you can't. And many people have always wondered why you can't do that, but you can't do it. You can't just go there. The only people you'll find there are people that work for our government. Um, you are not allowed. It's a no-fly zone. That's true. You are not allowed to. You're just not allowed to be there, guys. Our military's there, and our governmental, like, scientists and whatnot. They have laboratories up there, but nothing else. Nothing else, and it's weird. It's weird. Can't just go there. And like I said, I'm sure there's many people here that would not want to go on vacation to Antarctica. But if you decided, hey, I want to go freeze my ass off, and I want to go see what's going on up north or down south, whatever you want to call it, whatever you guys want to call it, or it's freezing, but let's go see what it's like there. You can't do that. You can't just fly in. Now, I knew that they do give they do give tours. From my understanding, you can get on a plane and you can fly around it in certain parts of it. They let you see, and it's some kind of a tour that they do if you can afford it. But you can't see all of it. There's the thing. They only show you pieces of it. They don't show you the whole thing. You can't get down on the ground and drive around Antarctica. It's interesting. And there was some kind of a pact that was signed, yes, Kiki, years and years ago, for whatever reason. And I've always said, if if Antarctica were to start melting, would there be things found that we're not supposed to see? You gotta wonder. It's definitely a conspiracy. Sweet Melissa, welcome. Good to see you. There's some crazy, crazy things going on up there, in my opinion, you guys. There was a governmental project that we're going to look at a little bit. Operation High Jump going on. Project Iceworm, another one that was going on. A lot of governmental things going on up there. Pretty wild. And it's been going on forever and ever. The movie, for those of you that never saw it, John Carpenter put a movie out back in the 70s called, and actually it was a remake. The Thing was based off of things going on in Antarctica. Big Amish in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Karen Folkor, it's great to see you tonight. Thank you for being here. Gloria Elton, so hello and welcome. They take them so far that, like, there's cruises and there's like barges and ships and whatever you want to call it that do go through there, but they only go through certain parts. They're not allowed to go into certain parts of it. From my research and stuff, it's pretty wild. Love and Other Habits, welcome. Good to see you. And they blame it on the fact that the weather's too extreme and they don't want people getting hurt. Well, I'll give you a little bit of that, but there's more to it, in my opinion. There's a lot more to it. A lot more. Come on in. Again, welcome, Miss Bianca, to the family. It's so great to have you here. Nice seeing you in blue, dear. You look very good in blue. All right. Let me see. Turkey Creek, great to see you. Who Bears Honeybee? Yes, after Operation High Jump, they signed a pact. Makes you wonder why. Wonder why they did that. And of course, the things that they give you, the E-Potty, great to see you, brother. The reasons they give you are the reasons they give you. If you were to challenge that, do you think you would get a different answer? I don't know. Oh, I know all about the treaty. Yes. There's a reason for that, though. I think there's a reason that was put into play. That's my opinion, of course. I look at things in different ways, but who knows? Anyway, Let me get some stuff moving on this, guys, to show you a little bit of something, something. Let me see. What's the first thing I want to show you guys here? Go into this thing. Now, I'm going to show you some clips, some videos. We're going to review some stuff. Welcome, Leah. Good to see you. Senior, what's out? Steve, what's up? Good to see you. White Rabbit, thank you for joining us. The longest untested world treaty. Can anyone guess? Ask why. Typically unique. Miss Kim's in the house tonight. Good to see you, Miss Kim. Thank you for being here. I know we're late. Later than I said. It's a little later, but guys, I've had all sorts of issues today with this stuff. So that's a good point there. Big Amish said the pact is a pretext. What the real question is, who controls Antarctica, enforces the pact, and has massive presence? Do you think that there's police driving around, Antarctica police driving around? Nope. Sylvia Hurley, wonderful to see you. Miss Kawanda, wonderful to see you, dear. Cinderella Ella, welcome. Rothschild. That name sounds familiar. Come on in. Yes, I wonder who patrols Antarctica to enforce their laws. You gotta wonder. Right. All right. So for those of you, hold on. Are you guys familiar with Sean Ryan? I know some of you should be. This is just a clip I want to show you guys real quick. Kind of an interesting point made here. 1 second. Damn it, SRB, I'm cold now too. It's cold here. It's weird.
Is that when people are talking about there being a hole at the South Pole, they're full of crap.
Hang on. Let's try that again.
All I can say is that when people are talking about there being a hole at the South Pole, they're full of crap. It's called superfluids. Superfluids act very differently than other things in our scientific spectrum and are used for things called chemical lasers. I would say I got a gift from someone in the program because they posted a picture of the Arrow Building's green laser.
Okay, it wasn't Automod that made that statement to you, Patricia. My apologies. It happened. It was another subscriber. It was something you must have said that upset them. Now I will ask this again because I always do. Everybody in here, please respect each other. Whether we have moderators for a reason, they'll handle situations that become heated. Don't try to handle it on your own, please. That way, we keep things from being that way. So I'm sorry that happened to you. And going forward, we will ensure that others don't. It was probably something that happened it simultaneously, so we didn't get to see it. But other subscribers, please, don't be insulting to the other people in here. I appreciate that very much. That's all I'm asking. So it's all handled. It's done. Moving forward, it's in the past. And I understand people have bad days. I have them all the time. So, all right, on we go. Talking about sitting dead in the ice. Like, what the hell could there be that's even going on in Antarctica that would need to be used for anything? Let's listen a little more.
Something else.
So this is what you'll find in Antarctica, guys, is buildings like this that they're laboratories, they're governmental buildings, okay? Mainly and only for people that work for the government that are running experiments of sorts in Antarctica. There's no neighborhoods like where you and I live. There's no McDonald's sitting on the corner. There's no Dollar General on the other corner and none of that. There's nothing here, okay? These are the types of buildings and facilities you'll find in Antarctica all over the places that they allow for them. Eddie's throwing up facts here for us to check out. Fun fact: the coldest directly measured temperature on Earth is minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, minus 128.6 Fahrenheit, recorded at Russia's Vostok station in Antarctica on July 21st of 1983. That's insane, guys. And this is who we have working these labs in Antarctica are people from places such as Russia, the United States, other countries, so on and so forth. Not many, just a few. So that's really cold, bro. Really cold. Yeah. If there's no McDonald's, there's something wrong. Exactly, Rubik. Exactly. Now, if you hadn't noticed, the words he said is need to know. These people that get sent there to run these experimental whatever they're doing, they don't know what the hell they're doing most of the time. They know what they're doing. They don't know what other people are doing there. None of them know each other's personal business. Any of that kind of stuff, of course, have to tell it, once they get there and know each other. They're not supposed to have those conversations from something I read earlier this morning. It's just a very weird situation. It's a lot along the lines of like Era 51 type stuff. They're flown in and dropped off. They do their jobs and then they're flown back out. It's weird. Very strange is all I'm saying. Thank you, White Rabbit. Fun fact, a few years ago, people workers were running around in the underground bases with their Fitbit watches on. It showed a lot. Antarctica is amazing. It's wild. It's something that blows my mind. And thank you for that piece of info and the super chat. Very much appreciate it. God bless. Now, the interesting part of this part, there's so much more that we're looking into tonight than just this. I'm just starting off with this to give you guys a little kick. Um, the show we did last week on the scientists that have been found to be missing and deceased, there's a tiny little bit of a link to some of this. Okay, whether you believe it or not, there is a little bit of a link to some of this. I didn't do that on purpose. This is something I wanted to talk about for a long time, but there's a link to some of that. Believe that or not, guys, it's interesting, very interesting. And I'll tell you right now, something else that I was doing earlier, and I just retested it to see it too, and I'll even show you if we have to. Um, but when you go to Google Maps, Google Earth, whatever you want to call it, and you can only see portions of things on there. You can't see the full basis of the continent through there, which is interesting. Kind of reminds me of going to Moscow, Idaho, and trying to look at the map there and all the blurry stuff. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Like you don't do that for just no reason, guys. Something's going on at the pole. Welcome, Hangman. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. On we go.
And you think that might be a communication device? How would they be communicating with the laser?
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Sean.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys follow Sean Ryan. I'm telling you, I'm recommending it. Check him out. He gets into so many more other things besides this type of stuff, but please go check it out. Please, if you will. JB White, good to see you. Sounds good, Davey. Thank you for being here today. So on we go, you guys. Moving on. Just a little bit of a teaser there, giving you a little bit of what we're going to be getting into tonight. 1 second. All right, cooperate with me, please. There we go. It's working. Okay, great. All right, moving on. Let's see. Where do I want to go from here? I got so much to show you guys. Maybe this one. Hold on. All right. Let's see. What's next?
But I got a phone call from an organization called Future of Space. It's all into exploration, not only Earth's surface, the oceans, but space. And they're chartering a ship to Antarctica. Called me up. Daniil, you want to join us? I said, yeah. While my passage was paid for, I gave some talks, interacted with all the shipboard people. So, yeah, finally, on my bucket list, made the trip to Antarctica.
Thank you, White Rabbit. Fun fact, they once did drilling around Antarctica and neighboring islands, and it showed that it was a once tropical, that they found sediments containing the pollen of plants that only thrive in the tropics. That is a fact. Very, very interesting fact, too. Thank you again, White Rabbit. Number 2 towards our goal for tonight. Already, you guys rock. I love it. Thank you.
We're all going to die. So I wasn't the only person on board who served as part of the attraction for the seagoing visitors to Antarctica. We had William Shatner, all 93 years of him, still going strong. The only one among us who has boldly gone where no one has gone before. He's quite a hoot. Scott Kelly, a shuttle-era astronaut, holds the American record for most number of days in space. I also went with my wife and my son, Travis.
Big kisses to the Star Talk team.
And he brought a friend, Kelly.
We are going to Ushuaia right now. We just came from Buenos Aires and we're on the plane.
And in fact, Travis never left his stateroom without a GoPro. And he captured so much of this trip. Most of it is through his eyes.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Travis.
And we're here today
At the port in Ushuaia.
in Argentina. Just recently landed. It is personally both our first times going to Antarctica.
And Argentina for
And
that
Argentina, which by the way was like, whoa.
matter. Still is like, whoa.
It's
We're in the
really-
southernmost city in the world right
Yeah,
now.
because it's fastest to get to Antarctica from here.
I've been told, I didn't double check this, but have no reason to doubt, that there's a town in Argentina, Ushuaia, which is the southernmost settlement in the world. What an ideal place to serve as a port of departure for Antarctica. Ushuaia is a town, people go there hiking. I think it's near Patagonia. Forgive me as a geographically ignorant American. I didn't know that was a place. I just thought it was a brand. A beautiful coastal town, fully self-aware of its role in the world as a servant of explorers, as a last stop before Antarctica.
And I know some of this may seem boring, guys. I have a whole point to this, so stick around. It gets so much better. I'm working up to something I want to show you.
I'm just a city kid, so like, what do I know about Drake's Passage? In the body of water between Ushuaia and the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, that is where the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean meet. I don't know if that alone would be sufficient to make it as choppy as it is, or whether there are other prevailing climactic circumstances, but oh my gosh, you see the horizon do this. And you say, well, why is the horizon doing that? No, the boat is doing that. And yeah, so I didn't do much eating during that time. In fact, plates would slide off of the tables. So there's a...
And Drake Passage is one of the most dangerous, if you look into it, it's one of the most dangerous water ports as far as traveling through, because it is so choppy and so rough. And God forbid you fall into the water here. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say to you. It's insane. So it's crazy stuff, guys. Crazy stuff. Very dangerous. So just heads up with that. Anybody that ever chooses to go there, which good luck with that one, because I don't see it happening. But It's very dangerous to go through Drake's Passage.
Period of time there where everybody's basically on lockdown to get through Drake's Passage. By the way, our ship is relatively modern. Just in the last 5 years, it's been put on the water. It made me wonder, the explorers from the 19th century, 18th century, when they hit storms, what would that be like? If that kind of turbulence was doing that to our modern ship, I can't imagine what it did to any of those ancient ships that sailed the open seas.
And the stories that I've seen and read and looked into about Drake's Passage is it's almost like you're heading from Argentina in the direction of Antarctica. It's almost like a warning sign, like, don't go there. Stay away. You don't want to go this way type thing is the way I always took it. It's wild. And the amount of like boats that have sunk and been damaged and just all sorts of things, guys. Very, very scary. Like they shut things down. They lock people in their cat, not in their cat, lock them in, but tell them, sit down, stay where you're at. Don't move. You know what I mean? Type stuff. Be safe until we get through here. It's crazy. Really crazy. Like I said, it's almost like a warning sign, like, don't go there. Don't come here. Stuff like that, you know?
Fun part was conversations that I was able to have with some of the other people who served as part of the attraction of the boat. We actually recorded a Star Talk live. My two guests for that were William Shatner and Scott Kelly. We love him. He's a twin, you may remember, and we've actually interviewed him before for Star Talk. He is just fun to hear his stories about spending as much time as he did in space, almost a year in space, in orbit, in the space station, International Space Station. We talked about exploration and discovery, compared and contrasted people who came to Antarctica on the frontier of exploration of Earth's surface and how the environment was so hostile to anything that they were accustomed to in Europe or anywhere else in the world, and what the challenges have been for going into space, particularly the earliest ones where there were a lot of uncertainties. And what kind of bravery did that take? What kind of audacity of mission?
I do, Aquarian, I do have the Bermuda Triangle as something we'll be covering, the conspiracies behind that. And if you guys are interested in hearing specific stories and having me cover specific things, please send them to me via my email. I love to hear from you guys. And I'm interested in your thoughts on what you want us to cover, guys. That's what it's all about. This is for you. Well, it's for me too, because I enjoy and love this stuff. But this is for all of us, okay? But it's for you guys. So choose something that you want us to talk about here at Cafe Conspiracy, and send me an email, and we will go there, guys. Bermuda is a big deal for me. I love that one. And there's many stories that go along with the Bermuda Triangle, so I will be doing that, Aquarian. So, yes, if that's what you were asking.
Did that take? William Shatner just loves thinking about exploration and what it means to our species, to humanity, to our goals, to what we are as humans.
We're here because of our curiosity. I want to see a leopard seal.
That was a fun conversation. I also had a separate conversation with Charlie Duke, who's been to the moon, 250,000 miles away. And we had that conversation by design on Christmas Eve, because on Christmas Eve, 1968, Apollo 8 was orbiting the moon. It was the first time astronauts were launched with a destination in mind. Destination Moon. Apollo 8. They're orbiting the moon, they come around the backside, and lo and behold, there's Earthrise. They took that famous picture of Earthrise over the lunar landscape that we all recognize. And on that Christmas Eve, with Earth in view in the distance, 250,000 miles distance, those three astronauts took turns reading the first 10 verses of Genesis.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
I guess when you're in space and you see Earth as no one had seen it before, it can do that to you. I wanted to discuss with Charlie Duke the meaning and significance of that reading and just what he felt about that and his life as an astronaut, one of the few who have been to the moon and back. You know who else was on board? Our Star Talk friend, Brian Greene. He was there with his wife and 2 kids, the only other sort of physicist on board. So I had a fun conversation with him, and we're just sort of geeking out on the science that's conducted at Antarctica. So Brian, is this your first time to Antarctica?
It is not.
Oh my God.
It's my second time.
Oh, you're showing off now.
No, it's just it just means I got sick twice as often.
By the way, when you go to Antarctica, no matter the season, you got to be dressed for it. And we went in December, which was, quote, the height of their summer. The temperature bottomed out in the low 30s, maybe -1 Celsius. It was typically more like 35 degrees. Based here in New York City, I was comparing temperatures. It was typically colder in New York City over that time than it was in Antarctica. But regardless, when you're out for long periods of time, you don't want to be exposed to the cold temperatures for too long. It's just not healthy, particularly the very windy conditions. And so we each were given a big old yellow parka.
We're getting ready to...
We as passengers pose to harming the ecosystem of Antarctica with microbes, organisms, and other forms of bugs stowaway in the Velcro of our clothing.
So what did we just do here, Kelly?
So we're getting our outside clothes checked to see if there's any Velcro on them, because Velcro is one of the easiest ways to capture dirt and grass from Antarctica. And we want to make sure that we're not bringing back any kind of bacteria, any kind of plants or living.
Are you guys hearing this? They do not want you bringing back from Antarctica any kind of plant life, dirt, debris, which is not hair, debris, of any sort from Antarctica, folks. Any bacterial, any kind of bacteria from Antarctica. None of that. They don't want it brought back from there to here. Interesting point, isn't it, guys? You wonder why that would be a problem. You got to ask that question, is all I'm saying.
Well, isn't it the other way around?
It's both ways. Is there a mark? It's amazing.
Oh, we got a winner. We got a winner. It looks like Mackenzie picked up on that one, so no one can test it. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting.
All touch a glacier or part of a glacier. How are you feeling?
I'm extremely excited to hold Antarctica ice.
Whoa! It feels like a piece of art.
It's just ice.
Yeah, but it's artistically crafted ice. Anyways.
Artisan ice.
I got a great question here. And that really just depends on the area that you're in. Falls to the time when it officially becomes.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Glacier ice.
Absolutely one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. Can you imagine being there, seeing this in person? Yeah, I wouldn't have licked that either. Just saying. But look how gorgeous this is, and how overwhelming it is, in my opinion. Still, as you're looking at all this, you're still wondering why you cannot be here unless you're on one of these tours, and why you can only go to certain places on this continent. That's in the back of your mind as you're moving along through all this beauty.
Another striking feature is
the ship that they were in is only allowed to go in so many places. It's not allowed at all, large ships like that, to go in different places. Interesting enough. Hello, Karmic. Good to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us. And Cruddy is in the house. Good to see you, Cruddy.
the number of icebergs. Very big navigational challenge for the captain of the ship. These icebergs are huge. I was most impressed with what they call tabletop icebergs. These are flat-topped icebergs that are frozen ice sheets, basically, that broke off from their shelf and then are floating. So they don't have the craggy looking tops.
And what I always thought was so cool about these is we see what's above the water here, right? You see that, and it's so massive. What nobody sees and that nobody gets to understand is what's under the water and how deep it goes and how massive the bottom of this is underwater. No, I've never been here, baby Ames. I would do anything to go here. Anything. I would love it. If I could afford it, just one time I would go there because it's so beautiful. Yeah, but what's under that water is so massively huge. It doesn't look like it would be much, but it's monstrous.
That icebergs that cleave off of glaciers can attain. So it's perfectly smooth top. And I'm looking at one out my window. I'm on the 8th level of this ship. So that means there's 8 stories, 8 floors of icebergs sticking out of the water. Well, we all heard that 90% of ice is submerged, 10% is above. So that means that this floating iceberg is 72 stories below the water. I couldn't even fathom that. I did go in a little submersible.
Where are we off to?
To the submarine. Oh, yeah.
And what are we going to see?
I don't know. We're going to see stuff underwater. I want to see the bottom of an iceberg just to get final proof that 90% of it lives there. But we could not get close enough to make that observation because they're highly unstable objects. They're slowly melting and they're always repositioning themselves. They'll tip, they'll tumble, they'll roll, always to maintain 90% of their volume beneath the water surface. So it's just dangerous. So I never did see it. I was saddened by that. I mean, I believe it. I mean, I know physics, so I'm good with it, but it would have been more fun to document it. We're all gonna die.
You guys haven't eaten enough. You are too light. Therefore, I actually need to make the submarine a little bit heavier. So what I'm doing now, I'm venting the tanks. The submarine will actually start getting lower in the water until we get enough bite for the thrusters, and then it will push the submarine down. But we will always float, meaning that that's the first line of defense. We just simply float to the surface.
There's an experiment I wanted to do, and I made sure I did it. This cruise took place over Christmas, so there was no shortage of Santa hats. I made sure to take one with me on the submersible. Because you know what happens? As you descend, sunlight, which contains red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, sunlight starts getting filtered. And red light does not penetrate as deep into the water as blue light does. And so this Santa hat should get darker and darker and darker. And I think eventually it'll just look black. So things start taking on a bluish hue. Very odd, very spooky even. And as I hold the Santa hat, told you, which is vibrant red, as you'd expect any Santa hat to be, the color slowly fades. No red available in the sunlight to reflect off of the red hat so that I can see red. And we got to the bottom, and there are these weird creatures. They looked very alien. One had, I don't know, it looked like a starfish, except it had too many legs. There's like 15 legs. Starfish should have 5 legs. Sea stars, right? 5 legs. These had like 15. Like, what is that? It looked alien. Like I cut a hole in the ice sheets of Europa, Jupiter's moon, and I'm looking at life forms down there. That's what I felt like. And so, I don't know, is this life form found elsewhere? Unique to Antarctica? And by the way, the water is below freezing because it's salt water, and salt water freezes at a lower temperature than purified water. So that's another sort of interesting fact, that these creatures are perfectly happy under those conditions at the bottom of the ocean. And I said, okay, it's time to ascend back up. So we should see this in reverse. And I'm watching slowly. It happened very fast. Most of the depth that we submerged, there's no red light at all. Get up to a certain depth in the water, and then you begin to see some red come back. It's a striking phenomenon to watch that happen. A bit of optics. You know what else was cool? This ship is also a bit of an icebreaker. It's got a steel reinforced hull in the front. And what we were going to do was plow into one of the ice sheets in such a way that we get sort of wedged there and then step down and walk around on the ice sheets. This is frozen Arctic water. And so we tried that. So we plowed in and we broke up the ice a little bit, but we didn't get a nice nestly feel from it. We backed out, came back in again, and at that point, right at the tip of the bow, the front of the ship, the ice cracked. And then it kept cracking, and it kept cracking.
Look at the crack. Oh my gosh. Look at that crack. Oh.
And it made a crack a mile long all the way to the shore. And it was like, whoa. We broke the ice cap. People worried, well, now the penguins won't be able to migrate. Dude, penguins swim, okay? Penguins were just happy jumping in the water and back out on the other side. So that was an interesting phenomenon. We thought we'd done harm, but no, this happens. Ice breaks and refreezes all the time in Antarctica. Along the peninsula, there are a lot of islands. So of the several places we stopped, we made sure that on the itinerary, one of those places would be the continent rather than just one of the islands off on the peninsula.
Now, mind you, this is their summer, so it doesn't look anything like what you would expect it to look like because it's probably the warmest time of year that they have it here, and they're walking around on the continent itself, so on and so forth, doing different in the place that they are allowed to be, which is very rare. There's only certain places you are allowed to be there. You cannot, like I said, you can't just show up, land a plane or a helicopter. There's even, like I said, the airspace in itself. You're only allowed to fly in certain spaces. And that's just not normal. Okay? It's just not normal. So, anyhow, I just wanted to show you that first off because it's just beautiful to see. And then the other stuff comes into effect, guys. The more interesting stuff. Give me a minute to get back to it. 1 second here. Okay. So, choose the biggest one for you. Just a minute. Where's the good ones at? Now, part of well, I'm not going to get into that yet. I'll save that for later. Now, this is some of what has been talked about, okay? Bear with me. Some of these are weird, goofy. It's hard to find things that we can actually watch here to explain these things. So bear with me with some of this stuff.
Antarctica is the only place on Earth where humanity doesn't belong. It's a 5.5 million square mile desert of ice that is actively trying to kill you. The wind can reach 200 miles per hour, and the temperatures can drop so low that your breath turns to ice. There is a reason it's the forbidden continent. Grab your parka because we are diving into 4 Antarctic mysteries, and it's about to get chilly. The ice wall. For over 100 years, people have insisted that there is an enormous ice wall in Antarctica. But why? The idea of the ice wall is a fascinating intersection of 19th century skepticism, historical exploration, and modern physics. I think you will find the history of this idea and how it started pretty interesting. I assure you, you are in for a wild ride. In case you're unfamiliar with the ice wall, it comes from a fringe theory that says when you reach the end of Antarctica, you are faced with a sheer white barricade. This is the ice wall, and this would be the end of the known world. It is a huge cornerstone of believers in a flat Earth model, where the world is a stationary disk with the North Pole at its center. Within this framework, Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of the world, but a massive ring-shaped barrier that encircles the entire perimeter of the Earth. We know this isn't true, but for some reason, this idea continues. Proponents describe this ice.
And there truly are people that think once you go on the other side of this ice wall, you fall off the planet. Believe it or not.
Ice wall as a sheer vertical escarpment of ice rising roughly 150 feet above the sea, acting as a cosmic retaining wall that holds the oceans in place. Within this encirclement, the sun travels and seasons turn, while beyond the wall, it is believed that a dark, uninhabitable wasteland of absolute zero temperatures and eternal storms begins, making further travel impossible. For flat earthers, Antarctica is like the pie crust encircling all of the planet. It's not a continent, it's a border, and the ice wall is not a single unbroken curtain of ice, but a sprawling series of 1,000-mile sections separated by mountain ranges that rise as high as 11,500 feet. Some sections plunge so deeply under their own weight that the land beneath them is pressed downward by more than half a mile, creating epic, sunless valleys of pure ice. Plus, the ice wall isn't just tall, it's thick. Let's check out the history of this mysterious wall. There is absolutely no proof, and no one has ever been able to capture a single photograph. The first known eyewitness to this jagged frontier was Sir James Clark Ross, a British naval officer with enough curiosity to sail toward the unknown and just enough caution to recognize when the unknown was too dangerous. Searching for the South Magnetic Pole, he confronted a vertical escarpment of ice so immense that he famously compared the idea of passing through it to sailing through the cliffs of Dover. He and his fleet spent months in the 1800s skirting its perimeter, navigating the southern boundary of the world like men sailing along the rim of a great frozen amphitheater. They returned north with no passage found, no gates discovered, and no clearer understanding of what lay beyond the blinding glare on the far side. Make no mistake, Sir James Clark Ross did indeed encounter an ice wall at the edge of existence. However, was it an actual wall of ice hiding the forbidden part of the world on the other side? Or was it literally the edge of Antarctica, and Sir James just didn't realize he had found a continent covered in ice? Regardless of what the answer might be, what exists past the 150-foot wall remains the realm of speculation. Some claim the ice stretches outward indefinitely, a white desert without end. Others believe it rises into uncharted mountains or descends into deeper plains. What little can be known comes from the edges. On the fringe of this place is constant snow, shrieking winds, and storms that seem engineered to keep travelers from traveling. Even telescopes, with their bold promises of magnification, find themselves outmatched, unable to pierce the gloom where the horizon dissolves into darkness. That is part of this theory. Believers say that you can't even see beyond the veil of the ice wall, so our telescopes can see other galaxies, but not what's here on our own planet. Because of this, exploration becomes impossible long before answers become available. The cold is said to plunge toward absolute zero as one travels outward from the wall, snuffing out both ambition and technology. In this frozen silence lies the possibility of a world too large to measure and too hostile to conquer. Into this environment of unanswered boundaries stepped a man whose ideas would shape the entire modern landscape of flat Earth thought. His name was Samuel Burley Rowbotham. Some call him the grandfather of the ice wall. Born in 18...
Is there a problem, Clyde? Is something wrong? Am I missing something? Is there something that I said that bothers you or something? Just asking. If you're not interested in this, you don't have to stay, my friend. This is what it's about. There's more to this, a lot more, and it's way more in depth. I'm building up to the point that I'm making.
16, Rowbotham was an inventor, a writer, utopian socialist, occasional chemist, intermittent physician, and either a visionary or an unrepentant charlatan. His mission to illuminate the ice wall began in 1849, when he wrote a 16-page pamphlet under the pseudonym Parallax. It was called Zetetic Astronomy, Earth, Not a Globe. He quickly expanded the pamphlet into a full-blown work, which he released in 1865. And that was the catalyst for the flat Earth model. He structured the whole flat Earth idea in a way that made it scientifically appealing, for those days. His approach, known as zetetic astronomy, proposed a world centered on the North Pole, enclosed at its edges by the Great Southern Ice Wall, with the sun, moon, planets, and stars hovering several thousand miles above the surface. In his vision, the planet, the stars, it's all a diorama. There is no 3D space in his model, just the sun directly above us, not rotating in the slightest. I should mention that Galileo earned himself the title of a heretic for arguing against this theory. Rowbotham didn't arrive at his conclusions by passive reading or prophetic visions. He really did conduct experiments to prove his points. It's just that his experiments didn't necessarily make sense. He went to the Bedford River in England, stared down miles of drainage ditches, and concluded that no curvature could be detected, and therefore the Earth is as flat as a board. Convinced he had found a truth carelessly overlooked by the scientific establishment, he took his message to public halls where he could charge sixpence per curious listener. He didn't begin as a great lecturer. At one point, he fled a hall in Blackburn when he couldn't explain the disappearing hulls of sea-bound ships. Someone questioned him. He didn't have an answer, so he literally ran out of the hall. Not a good way to convince people of your point. Luckily for flat earthers everywhere, Mr. R was a persistent man. He sharpened his tongue, got back at it, and things changed. Audiences found themselves carried along by his quick wit and ability to turn skepticism into spectacle. He just practiced his public speaking skills. In Plymouth in 1864, he faced a formal challenge involving the visibility of the Eddystone Lighthouse 14 miles from shore. Only half the lantern was visible, an observation used by his opponents to argue Earth's curvature. Rowbotham argued the opposite so convincingly that he walked away with many Plymouth residents convinced that significant elements of astronomy had just been undone. His reputation grew as quickly as the controversy surrounding him. This is a great example of how little it matters who you are, what you've done, if you're right, if you're wrong, if you're evil. Charisma and quick wit win the game every single time. But I digress. Rowbotham was great at convincing people of the flat Earth and the ice wall. His personal life, however, wasn't going so well. He had multiple marriages, endured the tragic loss of several children, and was accused of quack medical practices. He also never really had one job, but jumped between this distracted him from his idea, which was that the Earth was flat, and it is rimmed by a massive ring of shining, glittering ice. Rowbotham's impact on 19th century scientific thought cannot be dismissed. His ideas stretched across continents. His followers included
This again is to get to another point.
John Hampden, whose public debates with scientists became notorious, and William Carpenter, another English supporter turned Baltimore resident, in 1914, broadcasting them widely after establishing a radio station. You can't make this up. A branch of the church was broadcasting flat Earth radio like some pirate radio rebels. The movement faded after World War I and people lost interest, but it found renewed life in 1956 with the founding of the Flat Earth Society. And ever since the 50s, they've been keeping this theory alive. And it all goes back to the ice wall, the place where the known world meets the unknowable. Ross may have discovered it, but Rowbotham gave it a place in pop culture, turning a geographic frontier into the outer boundary of human experience. In this view, the Earth's true dimensions will forever escape us, concealed behind a barricade of eternal ice. And that's why people love it. Whatever lies beyond remains silent, unreachable, and for now, part of a mystery that no machine, no expedition, and no man has yet managed to breach. The Moonwalker and the Mountain of Lies. In December 2016, Buzz Aldrin did what most 86-year-olds explicitly avoid. He flew to the bottom of the world to check visiting the South Pole off his bucket list. What happened down there is something that may or may not be cause for concern. As the second human to walk on the moon, Aldrin was no stranger to hostile environments. Yet according to a viral conspiracy theory that erupted shortly after his arrival in the southern land, the astronaut encountered something far worse than sub-zero temperatures. The internet claimed that Buzz Aldrin discovered pure evil lurking beneath the Antarctic ice. This was a real, tangible evil, an ancient threat so terrifying that it instantly gave the American hero a heart attack. That's a heck of a story, right? It combines Lovecraftian horror with a national treasure and everyone's favorite land of ice and snow. But like with many things you read on the internet, the truth may be a little less exciting than the fan theories. The rumors of evil began circulating via a grainy video on Facebook. The video featured a panel of self-proclaimed
Now, this is where it gets a little more interesting, folks. This is what we're working up to at this point.
experts who spoke with the confidence of men who had never been fact-checked in their lives. One panelist, claiming to be a close friend of Neil Armstrong's family, insisted that Aldrin had been medically evacuated from the South Pole, not because of any illness, but because he found out things he wasn't supposed to find out and it hit him in the old ticker. To be clear, Buzz did go to Antarctica. That is 100% true. He was on a tourist expedition in 2016, something that anyone with enough money, good boots, and a warm coat can do themselves. It is also true that Buzz was evacuated by the U.S. Antarctic program to McMurdo Station due to a medical mishap. From McMurdo, he was flown to New Zealand and treated at a hospital. That's the verifiable truth.
And never went back.
Here's the unverifiable rumor that is spreading online like wildfire. Unknown beings had been waiting under the ice for millions of years, presumably passing the time by playing cards. They were not expecting company. The panelists claimed that seeing these entities caused Aldrin's heart to fail. The entities weren't too happy either. It's not clear how they met, but maybe Buzz accidentally wandered into a den of them. I really don't know the monster situation in Antarctica this year. While this may sound silly, there's a good reason that people are latching onto the conspiracy. Antarctica is an enigma, to say the least. It's the only thing that all the major countries of the world seem to agree on. Everyone, the US, China, Russia, the EU, they have all agreed to leave Antarctica alone, not settle on it,
Good night, SR Bubble. We'll see you tomorrow, dear.
not claim it, not mine it, nothing. Why is that? Certain countries typically don't have an issue taking land that may or may not belong to them, but those same countries want Antarctica to be a land of peace and cooperation. Only scientists are allowed to live there, and only in designated areas. No government bases, no secret facilities. Everyone's just happy leaving Antarctica alone. And that might be suspicious. Could the truth be that there is something in Antarctica that they don't want us to know about? And could Buzz Aldrin accidentally have found that very forbidden thing? Why not? It sounds logical, reasonable. Did Buzz meet a bunch of Atlanteans frozen under Antarctica for a million years? I mean, maybe. I wasn't there. One of the speakers in the video talked about a cryptic tweet allegedly sent by Aldrin right before his medical issues in Antarctica. The tweet read, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." Buzz is over here shooting off the kind of dramatic dialogue that belongs in a Marvel movie trailer, not on a scientific expedition. They even showed a screenshot of the supposed tweet, only the screenshot looked about as authentic as a $3 bill growing from an apple tree. Not to worry though, I am on the case. I know exactly where this fake tweet came from. Originating from a now defunct conspiracy site called Superstation 95, the image was a masterclass in digital incompetence. It lacked a timestamp, a date, or any engagement statistics like retweets or likes, features that even the most glitchy X interface includes. And listen.
Now, don't forget, folks, we're in Cafe Conspiracy tonight, so it's all about the conspiracy theories, okay? Don't forget that.
To this. Snopes debunked the image almost immediately, noting that no archived version of the tweet existed anywhere on the internet. Furthermore, the idea.
So it was debunked almost immediately, right? And this is where I'm going with this, you guys. Was it debunked because it was not true, or was it taken down and thrown away and tossed off for us to not see because it wasn't supposed to be true? You get what I'm saying with this? Again, I'm not saying that it was, either way. I'm giving you the info is what I'm telling. Is it true? Did Buzz Aldrin encounter something that threw him into a heart attack and something that he could never believe he saw? And he tweeted about it and they took it down because, oh my God, we can't let that get out? Or was it something that somebody created to make it look good and make it scary to the world, okay? Which one was it? You get to decide. That's what this is all about, guys.
that an 86-year-old man in the middle of a medical
Thank you, Tiffin.
emergency at the South freaking Pole would pause to open X or Twitter or whatever, type out a vague warning about cosmic evil, and then hit send before passing out is insane. So no, there was no tweet, but could there have been some sort of evil entity? If there is an entity, it has yet to make itself known. The reality of Aldrin's evacuation was terrifying, but for physiological reasons rather than paranormal ones. In fact, it had a lot to do with the altitude, not with the Ningen. The Amundsen Scott South Pole Station sits on a shifting ice sheet at an elevation of roughly 9,300 feet above sea level. Because the atmosphere is thinner at the poles due to the Earth's rotation, the air pressure there makes it feel more like 11,000 feet. This is an environment that punishes the human body, regardless of how many times that body has been to space. And that's what went wrong with Buzz. Aldrin didn't have a heart attack like the claims say. He had altitude sickness. His lungs began to fill with fluid, a condition known as pulmonary edema. And let me tell you, it sucks. It's
Pulmonary edema, not edema.
basically what happens when your body panics because it can't find enough oxygen. In a statement on his website, Aldrin explained that he felt short of breath and congested. His vitals were checked by the on-site medic, who noticed his oxygen levels were tanking. The decision to evacuate him wasn't made to silence him about snow demons, although that would be pretty exciting. The decision was made because pneumonia in the South Pole is a death sentence, no matter how good your insurance is. The persistence of this conspiracy highlights a really strange quirk of human psychology. We simply refuse to believe that Antarctica is just ice. We make up stories about ice walls, giant monsters, and lost alien bases. And who knows, there might be a grain of truth in there somewhere. Antarctica is a continent the size of the United States and Mexico combined, completely devoid of indigenous human history, at least as far as anyone knows. And I think it must be that emptiness and vastness that terrifies and captivates us as humans. A cold case solved. Antarctica is designed to swallow secrets. It is a continent-sized storage unit, a vast white canvas where men go missing and never trouble the Earth again. But in January of 2025, the ice started coughing up evidence of someone who disappeared and was supposed to have vanished for good. A Polish Arctic expedition, working among the exposed rocks of a rapidly melting glacier, found something ancient and profoundly unsettling. They dug up the bones of a man who had vanished over 6 decades ago. Finding pale white bones amidst the snow must be next to impossible, and especially in the vast tundra of Antarctica. But they pulled it off, uncovering more than just a skeleton. This is physical evidence of the final, chilling chapter of one of the greatest lost stories of Antarctica, involving a scientist who fought the cold and lost. Though, to be fair, most people who fight the cold lose at least a few fingers and toes. You might be surprised to hear the remains weren't actually a mystery. They weren't from some unknown humanoid who lived in Antarctica 10,000 years ago. Instead, they belonged to Dennis Bell, a meteorologist for the Falkland Islands Dependency Survey. This is the agency that would eventually grow into the massive British Antarctic Survey of today. Bell was only 25 years old when he was snatched by the ice in 1959, barely more than a kid. The official cause of death was something so simple, you'll be surprised it doesn't happen to more Antarctic explorers. The young Mr. Bell fell into a massive crevasse on a glacier at Admiralty Bay, located on King George Island off the Antarctic Peninsula. His body was instantly rendered a footnote in history, a sacrifice to the polar gods that remained unrecovered for 66 years. It was one deep crevasse. It was more or less a gateway to the frozen layer of hell, like losing your selfie stick to the Grand Canyon. Sorry, but you're never getting that back. Fun fact, I almost said crevice, but it turns out a crevice is a narrow crack in the rock, while a crevasse is a large, deep fissure in ice or a glacier. So you know this gap was big. Poor guy. He didn't stand a chance. The glacier, in its slow, frozen surrender, released Bell's remains in an oddly romantic way. The Polish scientist found perfectly preserved bones and over 200 personal effects scattered around them. The expedition found remnants of radio equipment, a flashlight, ski poles, a Swedish Mora knife, and a pipe. The most intimate find was his wristwatch, still inscribed, the last silent witness to the moment of his death. These relics were essentially the contents of an early explorer's pockets, a toolkit proving the man was capable of far more than forecasting the weather, which he was. Before joining the FIDS, Bell had served a stint in the Royal Air Force, and his older brother, David, later described him as a hero who could turn his hand to anything. Bell was the kind of person who could service gas engines, he was a skilled photographer, and he once built an entire radio from scratch just for fun. He was sort of a genius, but nature doesn't care if you're a genius. Once the bones were retrieved, they were shipped off to King's College London for forensic analysis to confirm. Scientists matched the DNA to samples provided by Bell's living relatives, his brother David and his sister Valerie. The conclusion from Professor Denise Cindercombe, an expert in forensic genetics, was delivered in hilariously definitive academic terms. Denise said the DNA samples were more than 1 billion times more likely to be related than not. 1 billion is pretty good. Denise was driving the point home that yes, these bones are all that remain of Dennis Bell. So it was confirmed. 66 years in the ice, and now Dennis is back home where he belongs. David, his brother, is now 86 and living in Australia. He admitted that he was astonished by the news. He told reporters that he'd given up on finding his brother a long time ago. So for him to be in his 80s and finally have that closure was amazing. The significance of the discovery was felt by the entire polar research community. Professor Jane Francis, the current director of the BAS, took the chance to remind everyone of the sheer, horrifying difficulty of early Antarctic science. People like Dennis Bell, stationed at small bases during 2-year tours, were essentially pioneers operating without a net. These guys worked under extraordinarily harsh conditions. Dying wasn't supposed to be part of the job, but it did happen. I don't even want to guess how many blackened limbs and digits were lost. Still, these brave souls contributed to a legacy that persists to this day. Bell was a brilliant young scientist who went missing, not while doing some dramatic exploration, but while performing the simple, necessary, and apparently lethal work.
All right. So there's that. And again, like I said, some of this can be boring, guys. We're getting to some interesting stuff, I promise you. It is coming. It is coming. Just trying to build up to it. Just one moment here. Now, let's get a little wild. A little more wild. Give me a minute. Trying to find. Oh, Lord. Where's it at? 1 minute. A little bit more interesting stuff moving forward into some of the mapping and stuff. A lot of people don't even believe Antarctica exists. I found that out, which is hard to believe, but it's crazy. It is crazy. All right. Check it out.
Weird and mysterious, not just because for some reason the entire world has decided that it has to be protected and secluded from the rest of the world, even despite being the largest desert on the planet, but because there are so many strange anomalies that have to do with this continent. Good news, deranged viewer, if you have been wondering these questions, then you clicked on the right video, because today we're going to be talking about the Antarctica iceberg. This is a chart that has a lot of really weird things on it, from cryptids like the Ningen to just overall strange facts. And then we're going to be getting into more historical things and weird conspiracy theories about the continent of Antarctica. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for 560,000 subs on here, and we will go ahead and get into the video. Starting off at tier 1, we have Blood Falls. So this is just a waterfall that's coming out of this glacier called Taylor Glacier, where the water comes out this deep red blood color. This is actually not blood, believe it or not. It's just this iron-rich, super salty water that seeps out of this subglacial lake, and then whenever it emerges, the iron oxidizes and turns into this weird red color. Pyramids. So there is a mountain in Antarctica called the Pyramid. It looks a lot like a pyramid. Obviously, if you've looked into any Antarctica like lore, a lot of people like to point to this as being like a legitimate pyramid that was created by someone or something. However, this peak is 4,150 feet. And I cannot stress this enough. If this was actually a pyramid, I know it really does look like one, but if this was created and it's like an ancient structure, it would have been made by some sort of extremely powerful, unknown civilization. Because like the tallest pyramid that we have that exists today is only 480 feet high. And this pyramid would have had to have been, over 4,000 feet tall. So scientists say that this is just a naturally forming mountain. But dude, if it was real, there would be a lot of implications. It doesn't belong to anyone. So this is the only place on the planet where land is not officially owned by any specific country. Instead, Antarctica is governed by this international agreement known as the Antarctic Treaty system that was established in 1961. This basically means that this is the only place on Earth where every country agrees not to fight, but instead share everything for science. What's weird is why does the entire world not agree on anything except for this one place? Seems odd. Nazis in Antarctica. So this is actually a true thing. There were Nazis in Antarctica. There was this historical expedition that took place back in 1938 to 39, where Germany, during World War II under Hitler, sent an expedition to claim this territory and establish a whaling station. They explored this region and they named it New Swabia. It is this really otherworldly looking region in Antarctica. They have these jagged peaks. It is now currently named Queen Maud Land. And yeah, this place is really crazy looking. There are a lot of conspiracy theories that have came out of this expedition, but also like other things that happened later on, like weird submarine activity and, stuff at the end of World War II, but I'll talk about that here later on. All you need to know right now is yes, there were in fact Nazis in Antarctica at one point. Caves. So Antarctica, believe it or not, is 98% covered in a thick ice sheet that on average is about 1 mile thick. Because of this, there is an outrageous amount of hidden land underneath the ice that I will talk about later. But there's more of a conspiracy theory thing about caves in Antarctica, about how there's like giant caves or one giant cave in the South Pole region that leads to Hollow Earth, where there's the mythical city of Agartha, and it's like one of the only entrances to Inner Earth or Middle Earth, Hollow Earth, not the Lord of the Rings place. But once again, we'll talk about it later. Tier 2, Ningen. So the Ningen is this cryptid creature that kind of looks like a mix between a human and a whale. It's like a human whale humanoid thing. The origins of this thing came from the Japanese version of 4chan. That's how the rumor started. So it's not like it's like a real great source for finding creatures, but the story goes that there was this Japanese whale researching vessel that kept coming across these creatures that were not quite human and not quite completely whales off the coast of Antarctica, and they have these really eerie looking features. Like they kind of have the body of a whale and a whale tail, but then on the front end they have these human like arms and hands and kind of a human looking face. Sometimes though they also depict them as like these little like white seal looking things that only have legs and walk around on land. But the story goes that the scientists don't publish their findings because this would completely discredit their team, which like, yeah, if you're posting, the picture of the no armed little seal guy, I think it would kind of discredit your science team. Annual marathon. So there's actually this real thing called the Antarctic Ice Marathon, where these people will run a full marathon a few hundred miles away from the South Pole. It looks pretty cool. It costs like $20,000 to do, but whenever they're running, the temperatures range between like 14 to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. So that would be pretty brutal. Largest desert on Earth. So this is just the fact that the interior and like most of Antarctica in general is the world's largest desert on the entire planet. It has this status because it gets very little precipitation, less than 2 inches per year, and the air is so cold that it holds almost no moisture at all. And so this place is actually, believe it or not, a barren wasteland, and it's just kind of incredible that penguins live here at all. Actually, penguins can drink salt water. They have this like special adaptation where they have this suborbital, I can't say the word, gland that's located above their eyes, and it like filters out excessive salt in their bloodstream because they're drinking salt water, because they live in the desert. But obviously, like all noticeable life sticks close to the coasts or just the islands to survive. But like the furthest living inland creature are the emperor penguin. They can live like 100 miles inland. But if you really look at Antarctica and think about what this means, Antarctica is 3,400 miles across. So it's really crazy to think about. But there's a place on our planet that basically has 3,200 miles of complete desert wasteland with no visible living thing. It is so insane. I mean, this is basically like walking all the way across the United States and not seeing another living thing. That is crazy. And so this raises the question, why does this massive desert wasteland need so much protection from the rest of the entire world? It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Antarctica, Atlantis. So this is actually a theory that Albert Einstein liked and believed in. This is the theory that the lost city of Atlantis was actually Antarctica, and that Antarctica once had a civilization there that had like relatively normal temperatures. This goes along with this scientific theory called crustal displacement that was proposed by a guy named Charles Hapgood. This theory goes on about how Earth's crust can like shift relatively quickly and even move an entire continent at like a really fast rate whenever something like a catastrophic event happens, and it would trigger a movement like this, such as something like a comet impact or a large earthquake. But I think more likely they would refer to something like the magnetic poles shifting would cause something like this, which is something that's kind of happening right now. Our magnetic poles are moving a lot quicker than they have in the past. At least that's what they say. They might just always move fast like this and they haven't been paying attention. But anyways, this theory goes on about how Antarctica maybe moved really quick, or the poles moved really quick, and it caused this massive freezing of this continent. Tier 3, Hollow Earth. So I'm sure you guys have heard of Hollow Earth, which if you think Hollow Earth is epic, then you should totally go to Bunker Branding / Psychopoly and get you a Hollow Earth shirt. Sorry, this one's wrinkly. Very epic. But Hollow Earth theory is just the idea that
Foxy said, why does the north end of a magnetic needle on a compass point to North Pole on Earth when magnetically north end should they not repel? That's a good question. That's an interesting question. Very interesting. I'm going to have to write that down and look that up, Foxy. Thank you. There's some other things coming on this that are real, like wild, too, mind you. So just to stay tuned.
Earth is actually completely hollow or much more cavernous than what mainstream science has told us in modern day. And that maybe there's this massive inner world in these caverns or inside of Earth, and maybe even an entire ecosystem. Though this theory has been dismissed by most of science, it kind of has a cult following around it. Some point to places like Antarctica as having one of the only entrances on the Earth to get there easily, or other places like Mammoth Cave. Some people say the North Pole too, and other like big cave systems in like on the world. But some people think that historically different leaders from the past, such as Hitler himself, was trying to get to a place inside of Hollow Earth, and that maybe even figures like Admiral Byrd found it. But this theory was suggested by historical figures like Edmund Halley, who has to do with Halley's Comet. Did he name Halley's Comet? But officially, this scientific theory has been debunked because of gravity measurements and such. But it is popular in some parts of fiction, like Journey to the Center of the Earth. Very epic book, and the old movie is really cool too. And then also some of the Godzilla movies. That's where the monkey guy came from, right? The gorilla King Kong. Oh wait, so did Godzilla, right? Yeah. Ice Church. So Antarctica actually has 8 churches, one of which is a permanent Catholic chapel that is carved out of ice at one of Argentina's bases. This chapel is located 800 miles miles away from the South Pole. The structure is called Chapel of Our Lady of the Snows. The walls are carved out of ice, and it's really cool and crazy to think that something like this could exist. Hidden land under Antarctica. So this is what Antarctica looks like on a map regularly. As you can see, it looks like one continuous landmass. This is actually what the land looks like without the ice. As you can see, it is a lot more broken up and not continuous like most of our maps show us. So directly beneath Antarctica's ice is this entirely lost landscape of never before seen by human things. Like entire mountain ranges are buried, like the Gamburtsev Range. There are hidden valleys with rivers that are probably flowing beneath the ice, ancient ecosystems that haven't seen sunlight for millions of years, and there's no telling what we would find if we could get down there. It's likely there's stuff down there that was like preserved like a time capsule. I also read this thing recently that the ice cap on top of the land is so heavy that it presses the land under the sea level, and if the ice had melted or was removed, then the land would kind of rebound like a ball that you push underwater. Moving on to Tier 4 Piri Reis map. So this is really crazy. It blows my mind every time I learn about it. This is a world map that was compiled in 1513 by an Ottoman cartographer, Piri Reis. So I think right now we only have like a third of the map, but it is so crazy looking and detailed. What's really weird about it is that it appears to accurately depict Antarctica as not having ice, and it shows like what the land would look like if the ice was removed in some areas, as if this guy for some reason had seen Antarctica without the ice on it. Some speculate that there was either, no ice there when he got there or something back in 1500, or that this guy had some unknown knowledge that we don't have today from some past kind of more advanced civilization. Some people do, however, say this doesn't depict Antarctica and that this is rather just the southern tip of South America, and they kind of bent it around and made it look like Antarctica. But the guy Piri Reis, who made this map, wrote about how he based it on more than 100 old maps, some of which came from the Library of Alexandria before it was burned. Maps that may have been rescued and taken to Constantinople before the burning of the library. And so this is also another one of the reasons why people think Atlantis was Antarctica. The Bloop / Julia. So both the Bloop and Julia were these nicknames that were given to these ultra low frequencies that were recorded by these underwater microphones, and they seem to both be coming from the area near the coast of Antarctica. In 1997, the Bloop was originally heard as this mysterious sound that led scientists to speculate that because it sounded similar to whales, but it was much louder, it's actually the loudest sound that's ever been recorded in the ocean to date, but even deeper than whales. They thought that maybe this was actually a living creature, and maybe it was some sort of unknown sea creature we haven't discovered yet. People have even created a mock-up of what they think the Bloop would look like. I love this creature's design, and I do hope it is real. But later on, they decided that the Bloop was more likely an iceberg breaking off of glaciers in Antarctica. So Julia also was one of these low frequency sounds. This was recorded in 1999, and it was roughly around the same area as the Bloop. It was famous because it kind of sounded more like a woman's voice, and because of this, people speculated that this was like a female version of the Bloop. But once again, it was also an iceberg rubbing against the ground. More likely, they don't know for sure. It's still kind of a mystery. Ancient rainforest with dinosaurs. So I added this one to the iceberg because I wanted to talk about dinosaurs. But this is like the fact that Antarctica was likely this lush green continent that was like a temperate rainforest. And we found famous dinosaurs such as the Cryolophosaurus there, which was one of the largest theropods.
There have been seeds found that are considered seeds and plant, like, I guess you call remains, that are only from like tropical regions that have been found here, which is weird. So you have to think about how and why. You know what I mean? Just saying.
From the early Jurassic period. It was 20 feet long. It looked super cool. It had this crest thing on its head, which was likely like this brightly colored display for mating reasons. Another cool one is the Antarctopelta, which is basically just a classic ankylosaurus. classic. And then also the Australopithecus, which is closely related to the South American Megaraptor, which is another cool dinosaur. Mummies in Antarctica. So this is referring to how we have found different animals that seem to be perfectly preserved in Antarctica, but this is not artificially done. This is a natural process that happens because the continent is extremely cold and dry. So whenever animals die, they don't just rot. They instead will sometimes mummify, and we'll find things like mummified seals and penguins. And we found crazy things, like we found an entire colony of penguins that are like 800 years old that look brand new and fresh. And so that's really crazy. Tier 5, prehistoric giant spiders. So this is kind of like a creepypasta-like story. There was this guy online, it's another online story, where he was claiming that his dad worked on a base in Antarctica at McMurdo Station, and that he was a doctor there, and he started to uncover that there were secretly these massive prehistoric spiders that were lurking around the continent of Antarctica, often described as being like larger than dogs, and that people kept getting attacked by them. And then as he worked there, he discovered that different world governments were feeding these spider things by giving them humans, and then they were genetically modifying them so they could use them in warfare. They were planning to deploy them in some sort of warfare. And anyways, it's more of a creepypasta. The guy claimed it was real, but I mean, 4chan. 700-year-old soot. So whenever scientists were drilling through these ice core samples, they found this soot that appeared to be 700 years old that was preserved in the Antarctic ice, and they traced it back to originating from the New Zealand area. They believe this soot came from large-scale burnings by the first Maori settlers in Aotearoa, which is modern-day New Zealand. They think these people got here roughly around the year 1300,
Yes,
and they immediately started doing these large-scale land clearing fires. And what's crazy is this soot likely drifted 4,500 miles away to then get frozen in Antarctica. Garden of Eden. So this is just another theory that some people like to say, that maybe the Garden of Eden from the Bible was actually Antarctica, and that maybe the garden is maybe not the continent itself, but inside of inner Earth, and that the Earth is hollow and you can only access hollow Earth from the giant hole at the South Pole. And yeah, Antarctica shrinks your brain. So this is kind of crazy. Studies have shown that spending an extended period of time in Antarctica can actually lead to temporary shrinkage of specific parts of your brain. Not because it's cold or anything like that, but because the extreme isolation and confinement and just the overall monotonous environment, because, you know, there's like unchanging landscapes, can limit your sensory stimulation. And this causes your brain to just not get big, it gets smaller. You got to be somewhat stimulated, or no big brain. I try to stay overstimmed. But they say you can combat this with like physical exercise and even using like virtual reality. People in there playing what's the VR game? The monkey tag game. They're playing monkey tag in Antarctica. They're playing Phasmophobia VR in Antarctica. Phasmo VR in Antarctica? That would hit hard. That would go pretty sick, actually. That'd be pretty cool. God forbid a scientist have a hobby and go to Antarctica and play Phasmophobia VR. Am I right? He's trying to get down with some Beat Saber, and he punches a hole in the airlock, and then Organism 46B breaks in and rips his arms off. Whoopsies. Hitler escaped conspiracy. So this has to do with Antarctica. Bear with me, I promise. So the official narrative for Hitler's death was that on April 30th, 1945, Hitler took his own life in his bunker in Berlin, Germany. There was also kind of a weird situation where he ordered his own men to burn his body after he died, so he wouldn't become a spectacle like Mussolini had just been not that long ago. So after he died, his burned body was found by the Soviets. And what's really crazy is, although the Soviets found his body, his remains, Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, publicly suggested that Hitler had escaped to Argentina, which is something I just learned about. That is so crazy. So fast forward a month and a half after Hitler's official death. It is now July 16th, 1945. This guy named Sabo, this Hungarian exile who is living in Argentina, published this news article in this Argentina newspaper called La Critica. He published this detailed account about how he claimed he saw this ghost convoy of submarines that included the U-530 submarine, which is historical. That's a real submarine. And he had seen this ghost convoy carry Adolf Hitler, Eva Braun, and Martin Bormann to a secret Nazi base, New Berchtesgaden, in Antarctica. Or he also says they may have gone down to Patagonia and hidden them down there. But because of these articles, there has grown this huge rumor about how Hitler didn't actually die, and rather he escaped and went to either Argentina or Patagonia, or this so-called secret Antarctica base, New Berchtesgaden. It's about that name. We will continue with this topic here in just a second. Tier 6, Nazi Base 211. Like I said earlier, we know there was historically Nazi presence in Antarctica in 1938 to 39, where they claimed the territory and called it New Swabia, although there was no permanent military base established. Really, the only bit of evidence that we have for there being some sort of Nazi activity after 1939 was this real thing that really did happen, where the U-530 submarine left on final patrol March 1945 from Norway and was just gone for 4 months. And then the submarine surrendered in Argentina on July 10th. Why did the submarine take 2 months longer than it should have to go from Norway to Argentina? This brings about a lot of questions. Why did they surrender so far away from where they were expected to be? Why were they 2 months late, like I just said? Why did the crew destroy all the records? They destroyed all the records they had on their submarine. Maybe because the war just ended and they want to not indict themselves in more crime. And why also did the crew have no consistent explanation for where they actually were? Anyways, we will talk more about this U-530 submarine when we talk about Operation High Jump, because that will later be part of this conspiracy. It is worth noting that the narrative that the Soviet Union told, that they thought that Hitler had escaped to Argentina, a lot of people think Stalin was saying this not because he was actually genuinely suspicious, but rather he wanted to disinform people because he had more strategic goals. But there.
Okay. So at that point is when we move into that. 1 second here. One minute, my God. A second, you guys. My apologies. Let me see if this is the right one. Okay, so this is what is believed. One minute. Here we go. All right. That's what we're building up to, the big part of this, guys. Sorry. Oh, no problem, Aquarian. I'm down with that. That's already actually written down. So, yeah, I'm looking into that for sure. All right, here we go.
Conventional wisdom suggests that the Earth is essentially a solid spherical mass, with an inner core of solid iron encased in a layer of molten iron, followed by stiffer mantle and the crust, before heading to the surface on which we all live. However, although this theory is almost universally accepted as absolute fact, it is only an educated guess, with no solid proof to back it up. The fact is that we have never been anywhere near to the center of the Earth. So, with that in mind, theories that state the Earth is in fact hollow and even able to support life should be treated the same way as the widely accepted aforementioned theory. As you might suspect, though, most scoff at this notion and dismiss it entirely without any further investigation. However, throughout history, many prominent and respected minds, thinkers, and even military veterans have presented detailed theories as to what lies deep within our planet. When these theories are combined with the numerous reports and texts that make led by the United States.
Okay, I'm skipping forward to this because we've already seen all that. Start right about, yeah. Here we go.
To establish a base at the North Pole. On the 19th of February 1947, Admiral Boyd led a squadron of planes over the North Pole. He claimed that he could see vegetation and animals that shouldn't have been there, and ultimately that he saw a huge opening that led inside the Earth. However, perhaps even stranger, Byrd stated that out of nowhere there were strange flying crafts that got so close to them that they could see what looked like very similar to swastika markings on them. His airplane would not respond, and he was essentially in an invisible vice grip of some kind. Byrd went on to say that he was taken inside the Earth where he noticed great lakes and vegetation, and that the inner Earth had an inner sun. He was greeted by the beings that resided there. They were, he claimed, concerned about humans in general, but particularly about nuclear weapons that were building up around the planet. Interestingly, there have been numerous UFO sightings in and around both nuclear power plants and on grounds where nuclear weapons are housed. It may be worth noting that there have been long rumors that Hitler himself had a keen interest in establishing a base at the North Pole, with the objective being to find the entrance to the inner world, believing that extraterrestrials or an advanced race would be found there. On the 5th of May 1947, the El Mercurio newspaper of Santiago, Chile, appeared with the headline article, "On board the Mount Olympus on the high seas," in which it quoted Byrd saying, "Admiral Byrd declared today that it was imperative for the United States to initiate immediate defense measures against hostile regions." Furthermore, Byrd stated that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but it was a bitter reality that in the case of a new war, the continental United States would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Like Euler 200 years earlier, he also claimed that there were huge entrances to the inner Earth at both the North and South Poles. He repeated these views several times, including at a press conference in front of the world's media, before he was hospitalized and ultimately forbidden from holding press conferences on the subject again. Byrd died in his sleep in 1957, maybe predictably, maybe not. There were quiet claims of foul play, although his official cause of death was a heart ailment. Perhaps also worth checking out is Byrd's son, Richard Byrd Jr., who was 6 years old in 1947 and had accompanied and witnessed his father's claims. He was found dead mysteriously in a New York warehouse and had, by all accounts, had various trying times during his life.
And there's many, many other people that were connected to this situation that were just disappeared, were found deceased on very strangely healthy people that just poof. Nothing wrong with them, and they just fall over. Or they've disappeared. Everybody, a lot of people connected to this. As strange as it is, I'm just saying. A lot.
Perhaps the most interesting of all the Hollow Earth claims are those made by the Native American Hopi tribe, who have lived upon the plains of northern Arizona for thousands of years. According to their ancient writings, it was here that their gods instructed them to settle and build up villages in the rock which look very similar to modern apartment blocks. Here, they were taught to grow corn, beans, and squash, and thrived as a civilization. Key to the Hopis' existence was the Ant people, who had guided their tribe safely during two cataclysmic events. In the First World, which was destroyed by fire, and the Second World, which was destroyed by ice, the tribe had each time been guided by a strange cloud during the day and a moving star during the night until they came to the god-named Satu Knang, who in turn led the Hopi to the Ant people. The Ant people had lived on Earth since the first time and now housed themselves deep within the planet. They offered the Hopis safety until it was safe to return to the surface of the Earth, and also taught them skills such as food storage, rationing, and how to sprout beans inside the cavern under the ground. Not only is this another reference to the Hollow Earth theory, but it also lends a certain amount of support to the ancient astronaut theory and the Anunnaki. The Hopi word for ant is Anu. Anu was a Babylonian sky god, the Anunnaki. Not only this, but Naki in Hopi means friend. Ant friend, Anunnaki. Coincidence or evidence? We should perhaps stress that not everyone agrees with that interpretation. Is the Earth spherical? Well, no, it's geoid, really, which means earth form. Because it's not a sphere, and because it's somewhat flattened at the poles, we also have oceans, mountains, plains, and other geographical features that give it a unique shape, which is called a geoid. But it turns out that there is certain data and some stories that give us the idea of a hollow Earth. That is, a land that is like a ball that has air in the middle. That is, a shell of hundreds of kilometers thick, but hollow in the center. Here we will tell one of the most amazing stories about the hollow Earth.
The hollow Earth was a concept proposing that the planet Earth is entirely hollow or contains a substantial interior space, notably suggested by Edmund Halley in the late 17th century. However, the notion was first disproven in 1740 and again in 1774 by Charles Hutton. But was these conclusions accurate? There are still many who believe the Earth has a vast cavern system below our very feet. On the surface, the Mammoth National Park in central Kentucky encompasses around 80 square miles, but underneath lies a twisted labyrinth of limestone caves, creating a network that earns the title the longest cave system in the world.
Richard E. Byrd, pilot of the US Navy, flew over the poles, both the Arctic and the Antarctic. With a small Fokker monoplane, he flew over the Arctic, passing through Greenland, Kings Bay, now Ny-Ålesund, and...
Now, there's some stories that are related to Greenland as well, of things that are a lot like what's going on here, supposedly, which at one point I'll show you too.
Spitsbergen, Svalbard, reaching the North Pole. As for the South Pole, in 1928 he set up a camp based on the northern tip of Roosevelt Island in the Ross Sea, with laboratories, workshops, warehouses, a radio station, and a hospital. This base was the Byrd Camp, and his crew of 42 people for 14 months.
Roosevelt Island is in the northeastern part of the Ross Ice Shelf. The ice-covered island off the coast of Antarctica is around about 90 miles long and 35 miles wide, and was discovered in 1934 by Admiral Byrd himself. It was, in fact, a perfect location for all base camps.
At last, on November the 29th, 1929, he flew over the South Pole. This expedition and three others in 1934, 1939 and 1955 made Byrd a well-known explorer of Antarctica. But here we're going to focus on something that Byrd never spoke about in public, about what happened to him on one of his trips to the poles, but we know from third parties that he found the entrance to the interior of the Earth.
The entrance to the center of the Earth sounds almost like a bad 1950s sci-fi movie. But is there, in fact, any truth to this? Ariana and Agartha are the legendary kingdoms that is said to be located.
Now, the theory is, one of the theories is this is why they won't allow people to be in Antarctica because they don't want anybody else to find this. This is a theory, a very heavy conspiracy theory. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's one of the main reasons they claim that if you look at conspiracy theories, one of the main conspiracy theories as to why they don't allow other human beings to be there because of what the possibility of finding this. Just saying.
Located in the Earth's core. Though many remain skeptical, and rightly so, could Admiral Byrd's diary logs provide a tantalizing truth? So amazing, it's difficult to believe.
Here we have access to his flight log about what happened on February the 19th, 1947. This would be an unofficial expedition, that's why it wasn't previously named. From his blog, we can read the following. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation in this writing. It may never see the light of public scrutiny, but I must do my duty and record here so that everyone can read it someday. We're going to avoid log entries that talk about routine issues, and we'll go directly to the
Good night, Michelle. Thank you for joining us.
Substance. So registration begins at 0600 hours, 6 in the morning. 0900 hours. Vast ice and snow below. Yellowish coloration of nature is observed and dispersed in a linear pattern. Altering the course to better examine this color pattern below, reddish or purple is also observed. Circulating this area in 2 full turns, returning to the direction assigned by the compass, checking position again with the base camp, and transmitting information about colorations in the ice and the snow below. 0910 hours. Both magnetic and gyro compasses beginning to gyrate and wobble. We're unable to hold our heading by instrumentation. Take bearing with sun compass, yet all seems well.
In case nobody caught it, what they're reading from Admiral Byrd, who led this expedition to Antarctica. They're reading directly from his diaries per se, supposedly, as to his interaction within this situation. Word for word, his writings as supposedly what went down when he went through this.
The controls are seemingly slow to respond and have sluggish quality, but there's no indication of icing. 0915 hours. In the distance is what appears to be mountains. It's no illusion. There are mountains consisting of a small range that I've never seen before. 0955 hours. Altitude change to 2,950 feet, encountering strong turbulence again. 1000 hours. We are crossing over a small mountain range and still proceeding northwards as best as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the center portion. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. 10:05 hours. I alter altitude to 1400 feet and execute a sharp left turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or a type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below us. It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, yet there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It is definitely a mammoth-like animal.
It's not the first time people have reported strange animals. Occasionally, reports do come in of people sighting dinosaurs and other extinct animals. Unusually, it's locations where humans are pretty scarce. If we take, for an example, the woolly mammoth, well, they were once thought to be legendary creatures. They weren't even identified as extinct species until around about 1790s, I believe. Could it be that Admiral Byrd witnessed some sort of aberration or experienced something more profound, like a portal or doorway to another reality?
Report this to base camp. 10:30 hours. Encountering more rolling green hills now. The external temperature indicator reads 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Continuing on our heading now. Navigation instruments seem normal now. I'm puzzled over their actions. Attempt to contact base camp. Radio is not functioning. 11:30 hours. Countryside below is more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seem light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God, off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They're closing rapidly alongside. They're disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They're close enough now to see the markings on them. It's a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We're caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. 11:35 hours. Our radio crackles and a voice comes through in English with what perhaps is a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral, you are in good hands." I note the engines of our planes have stopped running, but the aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless. 11:40 hours. Another radio message received. We begin the landing process now, and in moments the plane shudders slightly and begins a descent as though caught in some great unseen elevator. The downward motion is negligible, and we touch down only with a slight jolt. 11:45 hours. I'm making a hasty last entry in the flight log. Several men are approaching on foot towards our aircraft. They're tall with blonde hair. In the distance is a large shimmering city pulsating with rainbow hues of color. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on those approaching. I hear now a voice ordering by name to open the cargo door. I comply. End of log.
Some of these caverns can be huge. Of course, we don't believe we've probably discovered all these caverns which might be on planet Earth. We do know that vast systems like this do probably exist throughout the solar system. There's even rumours that there are vast cavern systems or some type of hollow area on our moon. So not only do we discuss the topics of hollow Earth here, we're also discussing the topics of the hollow moon. Yes, it's feasible. Things could exist like that. And yes, there is probably room for a civilization to actually live under the ground. After all, ancient civilizations around planet Earth have lived under the ground in periods of time in our past, and they are visible by cave systems that go deep into the planet and must have taken hundreds of years to construct. It's amazing what people can actually do. But is there civilization hidden away in Antarctica? That's the biggest question that we face here, and I don't really know for sure if that could exist or not. If so, then it's something that has really been well kept secret. Maybe that we'll learn more as years pass. Or excavations and exploratory science missions go across Antarctica and we do get that information. One thing is for sure, there are many people that are coming forward today utilizing Google Earth as a piece of software to identify locations of interest across Antarctica. And it is a subject which is very well much in the limelight at the moment, especially regarding whistleblowers which are coming forward and saying that they were part of a military operation and involved with locating underground facilities throughout Antarctica that clearly are not our own. If that is the case, then we have to really start thinking, could there be some truth to these incidents? And was Admiral Byrd's diary logs actually real events which unfolded, which he made logs of? It's very difficult to know. But one thing is for sure, there's a huge amount of secrecy surrounding Admiral Byrd's diary logs. Where are they? And what was really written in them? It's really difficult to work out what's true and what's not here. But one thing is for sure, we have a huge mystery on our hand.
Then, the Admiral describes from memory the following events because he could not register in his log moment by moment as he did up to this point. What follows is his conversation with whoever captured him. Byrd and Howie, his radio operator, get off their plane, escorted by their hosts on a kind of flying platform without wheels, and take them to a large room in a building that, according to his words, he'd never seen before in his life. In this room, they're invited to have a drink, a delicious drink, but not recognized by neither. Suddenly, a door opens silently and Byrd is invited to go and talk with the Great Master. On this door, he could see some inscriptions that he couldn't read. This great master is an old man, but with delicate features, and he asked the admiral not to be afraid that he needed to talk to him. The master told Byrd that he had been allowed access for being a good-hearted man and well known in the surface world. This surprised the admiral, and the teacher continued speaking. You are in the domain of the Ariani, the inner world of Earth. We shall not long delay your mission, and you will be safely escorted back to the surface and for a distance beyond. But now, Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was at that alarming time we sent our flying machines, the Flugelrads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. That is, of course, past history now, my dear Admiral, but I must continue on. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science is many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral. Your race has now reached the point of no return, for there are those amongst you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish their power as they know it.
Antarctica has been a mysterious place for a long time, with people claiming that they've seen all sorts of strange things from there. There was, in the 1970s and to the 1980s, people who reported seeing a very large black hole over Antarctica. There was, in fact, one satellite photograph that circulated the internet. However, it turned out that it was actually part of the actual photographic process and the arm of the photographic telescope, which caused this round hole to appear in the middle of the Antarctic. That was pretty much realized very quickly. However, it didn't stop people coming forward with conspiracy theories that there was a massive cover-up. There was a huge hole in the Antarctica where objects, flying discs and things would enter in and come out of. And of course, the governments of the world were keeping that very hush-hush. Truth of the matter is, there are some strange, unusual holes in Antarctica, cavern systems, caves. Could they be a place which are entrances to another world? Who really knows? It seems that Antarctica is well off the map for being a location where you can visit. It seems very difficult to find out any information about Antarctica these days, even though in the 21st century, we all have access to computer and software systems which might be able to utilize satellites to find locations. There are still areas completely blacked out. We have to question, why is that?
In 1945 and afterwards, we tried to contact your race, but our efforts were met with hostility. Our Flugelrads were fired upon. Yes, even pursued with malice and animosity by your fighter planes. So now I say to you, my son, there is a great storm gathering in your world, a black fury that will not spend itself for many years. There will be no answer in your arms, there will be no safety in your science. It may rage on until every flower of your culture is trampled and all human things are leveled in vast chaos. Your recent war was only a prelude of what is yet to come for your race. We here see it more clearly with each hour. Do you say I am mistaken? Byrd replied that no, he knew that the Earth had passed through a dark age previously.
It's not a real surprise to find that people believe in ancient hidden cities around the world. We've already discovered ancient cities before. We still know that there are some ancient cities which haven't been found yet, which we believe exist, such as the lost city of the Amazon. There are many places like this which researchers and scientists still continue to try and find. However, it does prove that, yes, we can hide such a thing like this in plain sight in some cases. What happens if something is underground? Well, that's literally not going to be found at all, especially in a region known as Antarctica, where prying eyes don't get a chance to see what's actually there. It is a complete lockdown location, and I think only people that go in and out is military and science expeditions.
Any of us living an experience like Byrd's would go out into the world and tell our story without thinking that many people would think that we're crazy. Instead, Byrd hid the message, keeping it to himself. Why did he do this? Well, simply because when he told the high commanders of the Pentagon, they ordered him to be silent. Even the President of the United States, Harry S. Truman, was duly informed too. The Admiral, being a soldier, kept silent, accepting the orders of silence in the name of humanity. What? Was Admiral Richard Byrd a visitor to the Hollow Earth? Did the Ariani, the inhabitants of the Hollow Earth, allow him entry? Does this mean that the inhabitants of the Hollow Earth can open doors or gateways to their domains? If we have to be partial, there are certain sources that say that his diary does not exist, and that it is from the writer F. Amadeo Gianni, published in 1957. His book is called The World Beyond the Poles, where he tells the story of Admiral Byrd, and that this story comes to light. There are, in addition to this document, many sources that cite the Hollow Earth, from the city of Urx in Argentina to the cave of Los Tayos in Ecuador. Not only would there be entrances to an underground world, but also a kind of entrance hall to the Hollow Earth itself.
In ancient times, the concept of a subterranean land inside the Earth appeared in mythology, folklore, and legends. The idea of a subterranean realms became intertwined with the concepts of places and origin of even afterlife, such as the Greek underworld. Even the Tibetan Buddhists believe that there is, in fact, an ancient city called Shambhala, which is located inside the Earth.
If we believe in the Admiral's diary, the Ariani have been sending their UFOs called Flugelrads for years. They would bring their message of peace so that we take care of our planet, but then man attacks the UFOs, preventing them from delivering the message.
So is there any new evidence to support Admiral Byrd's claims? It's been a long time since Admiral Byrd visited Antarctica, as you can well imagine. Well, there are whistleblowers that have come forward, as I've previously mentioned, who talk about coming across certain facilities that look to be advanced technology, look to be that they may have not been created by us. If that is the case, then that lends even new theories and new ideas about what is really going on in Antarctica. There is even speculation that numerous officials, presidents and astronomers and scientists had a gathering at Antarctica not too long ago. If that is true, then we have to ask the questions why. Was it some mass discovery that needed their input? It's interesting to note that there seems to be evidence to support that these people were around the Antarctica location at that given time. Why astronauts? Why scientists? Why presidents? It would suggest that something of major was discovered in Antarctica. And if that is the case, then could it have been this lost city, the lost city that Admiral Byrd claimed to have witnessed?
Recall the case of the Battle of Los Angeles. A UFO of gigantic dimensions on February the 25th, 1942, flew over Los Angeles, generating alarm since the United States had entered World War II less than 3 months earlier. Was it a Flugelrad sent by the Ariani to try to stop the Second World War, and that it wanted to communicate with the high commanders of the United States? If so, obviously the dialogues between the Ariani and the humans ended before we started. Maybe because of this, we can never get in touch with the other inhabitants of our world. Newly released data from a European satellite has revealed the tectonic underworld below the frozen southernmost continent. Researchers have created incredible 3D maps of Antarctica's tectonic underworld and found that the ice has been concealing the remains of an ancient supercontinent's spectacular destruction. It's well known to scientists that the exact geological makeup of Antarctica's innermost land, located in East Antarctica, is yet to be discovered. What else awaits discovery in this mysterious continent? Antarctica today is divided into 3 distinct regions: East Antarctica, West Antarctica, and the Antarctic Peninsula, with each area containing a different topography beneath. The ice of the Antarctic Peninsula, for example, conceals a spine of mountains projecting northwest from the inside of the continent. East Antarctica, the largest area, includes flat plains as well as mountains. The Gamburtsev mountain range is located here. Its mountains extend for 750 miles, with peaks rising above 11,200 feet, roughly the same height as the European Alps. This range is completely covered by over 2,000 feet of ice. The ground in West Antarctica is almost completely below sea level. The ocean bowl beneath this section was created during the last ice age, when the weight of the ice, which was considerably thicker at the time, pushed down on the bedrock. But what else lies beneath the ice on this enigmatic continent? In November 2018, news outlets around the world reported that incredible data about Antarctica had been obtained from a defunct European satellite. Launched on March 17, 2009, the Gravity Field and Steady-State Ocean Circulation Explorer, the GOCE, was the first satellite of the Living Planet program, which is the European Space Agency's Earth Science program. It orbited Earth between March 2009 and November 2013, and its task was to measure the pull of the Earth's gravity more precisely than any mission before. Using data from that satellite, the researchers from Kiel University in Germany and the British Antarctic Survey examined Antarctica under the ice. Analysis revealed rocky zones known as cratons in the Earth's lithosphere, a zone between the planet's crust and mantle. Cratons are the core regions of most tectonic plates. The team also found orogons, which are folded-up regions of plates that are the precursors to mountain ranges. It's by studying the number of cratons and orogons that scientists are able to compare the continental plates beneath Antarctica with other regions around the world. GOCE's newly discovered cratons are believed by scientists to represent the remains of ancient continents, and they reveal important information about how Earth's modern-day continents are structured, especially Antarctica. But data from the decommissioned satellite not only produced a global gravity map, but also revealed local gravity changes with a resolution as small as around 50 miles. Co-author of the study, Fausto Ferracicoli, science leader of geology and geophysics at the British Antarctic Survey, said, "These gravity images are revolutionizing our ability to study the least understood continent on Earth, Antarctica. In East Antarctica, we see an exciting mosaic of geological features that reveal fundamental similarities and differences between the crust beneath Antarctica and other continents it was joined to until 160 million years ago." One interesting piece of information the team found was that East Antarctica is made up of old cratons and younger orogons. The researchers found similar structures to this in Australia and India. However, West Antarctica has a thinner and more homogeneous crust, which more closely resembles the southern tip of South America. The gravity map the team assembled from the data reveals that East Antarctica is made up of multiple cratons, which are the cores of long-lost continents. The scientists used...
This is called Operation High Jump, The Secret Nazi Aliens of Antarctica full documentary. It's provided by Absolute Documentaries.
Data from other satellites to essentially strip Antarctica of its vast layers of ice so that they were able to focus on the bedrock beneath.
Welcome,
When
Deb.
they examined this layer, the team found evidence of the continent's history as part of Gondwana, a supercontinent made of the modern southern hemisphere continents. The matching shapes of the coastlines of Western Africa and Eastern South America were first officially noted by Francis Bacon in 1620, at a time when Africa and the New World first became available to study. But the idea that not all the continents of the southern hemisphere were once joined in one great supercontinent was not put forward in detail until hundreds of years later. In 1912, by German meteorologist and pioneer of polar research Alfred Wegener. He's remembered today as the originator of continental drift theory, which he put forward in 1912, suggesting that the continents are slowly drifting around the Earth. But Wegener also convinced that all of the Earth's continents were once part of a single great landmass, which he called Pangaea. Its name is derived from the Greek Pangaea, meaning all the Earth. Wegener proposed that Pangaea existed about 240 million years ago, but by about 200 million years ago it began breaking up. Over millions of years, Pangaea eventually separated into pieces that gradually moved away from one another. These pieces slowly form the continents we recognize today. Nowadays, scientists believe that several supercontinents like Pangaea have formed and broken up over the course of the Earth's history. These include Pannotia, which formed about 600 million years ago, and Rodinia, a super...
I have to say I believe this now as well. That they try to keep us focusing on space, outer space above us, rather than the oceans and like the continent of Antarctica, so on and so forth. There's reasons, I believe, truly and honestly. So, just saying.
Supercontinent that assembled around 1 billion years ago and broke up 750 to 633 million years ago. In terms of Wegener's Pangaea, Gondwana comprised the southern half of this supercontinent. According to plate tectonic evidence, the supercontinent of Gondwana was assembled by continental collisions in the late Precambrian, about 1 billion to 542 million years ago, and broke up around 180 million years ago. It eventually split into the landmass we know as Africa, South America, Australia, Antarctica, the Indian subcontinent, Madagascar, and the Arabian Peninsula. Even though the continent existed many millions of years ago, some paranormal researchers have put forward the idea that Gondwana may have been the original model for the lost continent of Atlantis, with the knowledge of existence somehow being passed down through the ages. Gondwana's formed into its final shape about 500 million years ago. By this time, primitive multicellular organisms had evolved, as revealed by the rare fossils left from this period, which include segmented worms, frond-like organisms, and round creatures similar to modern jellyfish. When Gondwana represented Earth's southerly supercontinent, the planet was a lot warmer than today, and crucially, there was no Antarctic ice sheet. It was also a time, the Jurassic period, when dinosaurs still roamed the Earth, and huge areas of Gondwana were covered with lush rainforest. The first stage of the breakup of the subcontinent began in the early Jurassic period, about 180 million years ago. This new information contained in this gravity map gives scientists more knowledge about how the Antarctic continent was formed. But perhaps just as importantly, it tells scientists what will happen to it in the future. Antarctica is melting at a fairly rapid rate, and being aware of its underlying structure can tell us how this will happen and perhaps how it will eventually recover. In December 2019, it was revealed that a new map of the mountains, valleys, and canyons concealed beneath Antarctica's ice had revealed the deepest land on Earth and would help predict future ice loss. The new NASA map, called Bed Machine Antarctica, collects together ice movement measurements, seismic measurements, radar, and other data points to assemble what is hoped to be the most detailed picture ever of Antarctica's hidden features. According to NASA's website, Bed Machine is a new Antarctic bed topography product based on ice thickness data from 19 different research institutes dating back to 1967, encompassing nearly 1 million line miles of radar soundings. Bed Machine relies on the fundamental physics-based method of mass conservation to estimate what lies beneath the radar sounding lines, utilizing highly detailed information on ice flow motion from satellite data that dictates how ice moves. Originally, NASA's bed map was the result of work led by the British Antarctic Survey, where researchers assembled decades' worth of geophysical measurements. In operation from 2013, BedMap 2, like the original BedMap, was a collection of 3 data sets: surface elevation, ice thickness, and bedrock topography. One important discovery made by Bed Machine Antarctica was of previously unknown topographical features, such as the broad ridges that shield the glaciers flowing across the Transantarctic Mountains, which separate East and West Antarctica. Bed Machine also discovered the world's deepest land canyon below Denman Glacier in East Antarctica, an astonishing 11,000 feet below sea level. As a comparison, the lowest exposed region of land on the Earth is the Dead Sea, which sits a mere 1,419 feet below sea level. The new NASA map is a vital resource that will help scientists predict exactly which areas of Antarctica are at highest risk of sliding into the ocean in the next few decades or even centuries, and which parts might in fact be more stable than previously thought. Who knows what else such Antarctica mapping projects might turn up in the future?
Secret alien or Nazi UFO bases in Antarctica. It's an intriguing idea and popular with many ufologists. Now, whilst admitting that reality is often much stranger than fiction, which is this, reality or fiction? As always, let's take a look at the evidence. The notion that Nazi Germany had a secret UFO base in Antarctica is one of the most famous ideas associated with the end of the Second World War. Specifically, that a number of secret factions of Nazis escaped and set up a secret underground base to aid in the development of their top-secret flying saucer program. Such stories have been circulating for decades, adding uniquely to popular theories about alien visitors that remain a hallmark of modern UFO lore. This idea has had renewed attention during the past few years, thanks to widespread attention given to a 2006 discovery by Ohio State University scientists who found a gravitational anomaly located below Wilkes Land, Antarctica. This has been interpreted by some as being the long-sought-after secret Nazi UFO base. However, it has turned out to be simply an impact crater with a typical mass concentration at its center. It should be noted, firstly, that there is some legitimacy to the idea of a Nazi presence in Antarctica during the years leading up to World War II. In fact, the icy continent's strategic importance prompted an expedition by Germany between 1938 and 1939. This remains a significant contributing factor in the beliefs that the Nazis may have tried to establish a permanent stronghold at the South Pole. It is also well known that a variety of advanced aircraft had been designed by the Germans towards the end of the war, including suggestions that some of these resembled flying saucers. Though in fairness, no verifiable reports have been found that would indicate the veracity of the claims about Nazi flying saucers. In large part, the crux of the entire Nazi UFO affair has long remained centered around a device known as Die Glocke, or the bell. This was a conjectured Nazi weapons project, rumored to have been anything from some kind of experimental anti-gravity device to a special anti-aircraft weapon. Unfortunately, there's a lack of good source material about Die Glocke that can help support the case that such a device ever existed. So what, apart from the expeditions carried out by Germany during the 1930s, might serve as the genesis of these legends about a Nazi UFO base in the southernmost polar regions? This notion actually has less to do with anything the Nazis did, and instead appears to stem from a series of seemingly cryptic comments made by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd during an interview with International News Service correspondent Lee Van Atter. It's important to interject at this point that Byrd was a highly respected American adventurer and hero, known for his pragmatic and down-to-earth views and his proven extreme courage in the face of adversity. The interview, which took place on board the USS Mount Olympus in 1947, appeared in the Wednesday, March the 5th, 1947 edition of a Chilean newspaper, El Mercurio. Admiral Byrd declared that it was imperative for the United States to initiate immediate defense measures against hostile regions, potentially using Antarctica as their base. He further stated that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but that it was a bitter reality that in the case of a new conflict, the United States could be attacked by, quote, flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. As one can see, such wording easily lends itself to the idea of a connection between the Nazi UFO myth and something going on at the South Pole. What kind of perceived threat prompted Byrd to make such claims during the interview? Had some kind of danger actually existed in the southernmost extremities of Antarctica just after World War II? And if so, what was the nature of this threat? And could it have been associated with the technological carryovers from Nazi Germany, as some UFO researchers have already speculated over the years? Byrd had been tasked with leading the ill-fated Operation High Jump, which occurred between late 1946 and early 1947 and involved an extremely heavy military presence. Hence, some in UFO circles have gone so far as to suggest that Byrd's Operation High Jump represented a secret battle between US forces and a group of Antarctic residents with advanced Nazi UFO technologies. After all, what else might have sent Byrd and his scores of ships and aircraft packing so quickly, terminated 6 months earlier than expected after embarking upon this extensive and extremely well-funded military expedition? The theory about Nazi UFOs would also seem to explain Byrd's cryptic warning. However, on the contrary, it seems that what Byrd was actually discussing was the threat of an enemy nation getting to Antarctica and establishing military bases there before America. In fact, although details about it remained undisclosed for many years, the establishment of strategic bases had been precisely what the American presence during Operation High Jump had aimed to do. And, as regards the brevity of the expedition, rather than bumping into secret Nazi bases and their armaments, Byrd and his company encountered a relentless and unconquerable enemy, Mother Nature. The brutal conditions during that winter had been creating huge problems. In one dramatic instance in January 1947, a sudden downwind managed to sweep a helicopter mid-takeoff directly into the ocean, leaving a narrow window of opportunity for the pilot to escape the icy waters and be rescued. There were plenty of other situations, however, where the servicemen involved weren't as lucky. Complications resulting from extreme weather conditions led to the loss of several lives during the short period that Operation High Jump was underway. Operation High Jump was terminated the following February, solely because of the worsening weather. Returning again to Byrd's cryptic statements given to El Mercurio, there was no need for enemy aircraft, standard or exotic, to be present at the time of Operation High Jump to validate Byrd's commentary. Because by the end of World War II, experimental jet engines were already in development, and within a few short years, planes that incorporated such technology would eventually revolutionize both military and commercial aircraft. Admiral Byrd would certainly have known about this, and spoke of the expectation that any military with a permanent presence in the South Pole might be able to use this strategic location to launch these aircraft that could reach any place on Earth within just a few short hours. No wonder he was concerned. There is another factor worthy of consideration here. Had Byrd's statements about lightning-fast flying objects been somewhat exaggerated too? Antarctic explorer Paul Sipple noted of the famous El Mercurio interview that the reporters aboard the USS Mount Olympus had somewhat overblown claims from Byrd's earlier expeditions in the region relating to the so-called Bunger's Oasis, a lake found to have uniquely warm temperatures, about 30 degrees centigrade or 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
You are absolutely welcome and have a great night. Thank you for joining us tonight, Blue Eyed. I'm sorry it was so late, but I had so many difficulties today, so next time it won't be so late. Good night, dear.
Containing a variety of algae. Byrd later described the location as
a land of blue and green lakes and brown hills in an otherwise limitless expanse of ice,
and that his crew had
seemed to have dropped out of the 20th century into an ancient landscape where land was just starting to emerge from one of the great ice ages.
Byrd would later call the discovery
by far the most important of the expedition so far as the public interest was concerned.
No doubt this led to speculation. Paul Sipple went on to say, the 11 press representatives aboard the USS Mount Olympus had fired off dispatches to the outside world describing the oasis as a Shangri-La, implying that it was warmed by a mysterious source of heat that might be supporting vegetation. Byrd is claimed to have written in his so-called secret diary,
beyond the mountain range is a valley with a small river. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here.
We should be over ice and snow. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. Bird continues, saying that he can see animals in the valley, among them a living specimen of a woolly mammoth. This no doubt helped fuel other claims associated with Bird's expeditions, namely that they had discovered a habitable region at the South Pole, wherein a cavernous entry point into the Earth had led them to meet residents who existed below ground, the so-called hollow Earth dwellers, and took him to meet the Master, who said to Bird, "We shall not long delay your mission, and you will be safely escorted back to the surface. But now, Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was at that alarming time that we sent our flying
Thank you so much, Tiki. God bless.
machines, the Flugel rats, to your surface world to investigate. We have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity. But now we must, for you're tampering with a certain power that is not for mankind, namely that of atomic energy. A wonderful story, but unfortunately the secret diary has been definitively shown to be a fake. Taken into context, the embellishment of such details by the press could...
So there again, is it a fake? Or is it something they want us to believe is a fake? This is where the conspiracy comes into play with this, guys. It's very hard to tell right or wrong, good or bad. You just don't know. There's an interview. Because that just replays what we've already seen. We're almost done here, guys. I know it's getting late. All right, here we go. I'm going to show you Admiral Byrd's interview from his supposed trip. And this, again, is supposedly why they prohibit, one of the reasons why they prohibit people from going to Antarctica, because the theory is they're afraid other people will come upon this situation. That's the conspiracy theory behind it.
It's time for the Longines Chronoscope, a television journal of the important issues of the hour, brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A presentation of the Longines Whitnor, Larry Lasser, CBS News correspondent, and Kenneth Crawford, National Affairs Editor of Newsweek magazine. Our very distinguished guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
The North Pole used to be a no man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. You know, only 70 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral, would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old slow planes and the small cruising radius where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams, and of course that was a big improvement. But now the planes go much faster and they are safer, and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
That is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia. But why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And you know, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies.
I was going to ask you, does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
very much
Palma Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica, then between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, and one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Palma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's true. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long. I understand that now that you're working with the Arnold Bread Company in charge of frozen foods. Now, is there any future for frozen foods down these frozen extremities?
Well, I think the human race can be helped by that. This was thought out by Dean Arnold, who's, in my opinion, a great humanitarian. He learned that we went down there after 4 or 5 years and finished a meal that we had left there on the table when we had evacuated Little America. Everything was perfect, including the bread. So he got the idea of this frozen bread, and already he sent some to Europe, and it worked very well over there for some of the starving people. So you can store it down in the Antarctic, and against the lean years, and you wouldn't have any people in the world really starving if you did that.
So in the event of an atomic war...
You stay there forever.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We're pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the well. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
is it any secret? Is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources, the time will come when we'll have to go after that stuff down there.
Well,
I avoided what you said about uranium. I'm not sure about that. I don't want to have the world fighting over the Antarctic.
And Robert, is there a competition among other nations to try to get information about Antarctica and possibly to secure some of these resources?
Well, yes. There are now 7 nations very much interested. Russia is interested tremendously. That I'm sure of. Australia has an expedition down there. The Argentine, the Chile, New Zealand, Britain, and so on. Now, you can understand those people down there being interested because they live down there. The New Zealanders, the Argentinians, the Chileans, and the Australians. And so we don't do much about claiming anything.
Admiral, you make this sound a little crowded. Are there that many expeditions now there or en route there?
Well, as I said, it's the most peaceful place in the world, but I don't think it will be for long because of this intense interest on the part of other nations and this nation.
Well, Admiral Byrd, are private expeditions a thing of the past? Is expedition and exploration, making expedition and exploration now purely a government?
And don't forget that they all agreed not to fight over this for one reason or another. This one, they just all said calmly, we're good. Everybody did. And there's got to be a reason.
Government function because of the tremendous
no,
cost
I don't
organization?
think so. I think down south, it may be more or less a thing of the past, but not other expeditions.
And this is the guy that supposedly had that interaction with the Hollow Earth people, blah, 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 so on and so forth, just so everybody knows.
Oh, there's a lot of them going off now.
This latest expedition now on the way is a government expedition, I take it.
Yes, that's the government.
However, may I ask you, is there a great difference between the top of the world and the bottom of the world?
There is. Now, the North Pole is the center of an ocean 10,000 feet deep. The South Pole, the center of a plateau, 10,000 feet high. The North Polar Sea is surrounded by continents slightly frozen. The Antarctic continent is surrounded by a belt of ice, frozen seas of at least 1,200 miles thick. Now, the South is a plateau. It gets, in some places, 14,000 feet up. I've been over areas about 13,000. And it's a little bit chilly up there. So there's that big difference between the top and bottom of the world. The North really isn't very cold up there on the Arctic Ocean.
Not compared to.
And the rest of it's just more of that, guys. That was from 1954. Sorry about that. So the first thing I showed you in this, the very beginning, was the laser accelerator that they have that they're working on down there. I'm telling you, think about Space Force, okay? The things we talked about with the scientists that were missing, blah, blah, blah. And think about this, the thing I showed you with the lasers, what else they have going on down there possibly, and the technology that they're using to create these things. That's what I believe is going on in Antarctica. Now, this whole thing about they don't want anybody there because they may find that the big hole in the earth where it's hollow and all that fun stuff. Yes, Lucy lasers. There's more to this, guys, but we've been here 3 hours. I don't want to drag through anymore. It's late. But there's more. We'll come back to the rest of this and some other things I had at another time. But just keep in mind, there's something going on in Antarctica that they don't want us to know about. They don't want us to talk about. They don't want to show us. in my opinion. So that's my thought. And it's all based off of a conspiracy theory. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. It's very hard to find information about anything going on there as well. Very hard. And there's more things that I will show you down the road that point to other things going on. But again, the first thing I showed you, in my opinion, what's going on right now, like they showed that laser accelerator type thing. There's something about that, and of course they're using it in such an area that nothing is going to affect it, in my opinion. That's where I believe they're creating it, what they're testing it on, where they're testing it, so on and so forth, and all that, if that's possible. That's what it is. So, that being said, yes, will be jumping into the Bermuda Triangle at some point as well, and many, 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 many other things, as well as jumping back to the missing and deceased scientists. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I know it wasn't the greatest, but like I said, I had technical issues all day, so I struggled with this. I'm sorry. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. I will be live again tomorrow with the True Crime Cafe, of course. And I thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Don't forget to love each other and love yourselves. Don't change a thing. You guys are the beautiful people. Thank you to any donations that were made. Thank you to the moderators that were here. I appreciate each and every one of you very much. Have a great night, folks. Nothing but love for you. Bye-bye.
coffee's gone cold. The neon still hums. Another night's ending. Another question comes. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe everything did. The files stay buried. The stories stay alive. The headlines fade, but the echoes remain. Different decade, same old game. 3 a.m. at Cafe Conspiracy. The sign still flickers for those who chose to see. Truth tastes sweeter. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe everything did. The files stay buried. The stories stay alive. Different decade, same old game. The sign still flickers for those who choose to see. We'll leave the light on. The questions never sleep. You decide what's real at Cafe Conspiracy.